The Revenge of the Bride of Frankenstein by Jillian Ray Young. Act 1. The Winds of Change. Interior, hotel room, early evening, December 24, 1926. Fade in from black. Close-up. A pulsating yellow light against a red-orange background. As the camera zooms out, we see the pulsating light is the vibrant third eye of a young woman reflected in a mirror. As if aware that we can see her, she opens her physical eyes. She closes her eyes again as the camera zooms out until she appears normal. We hear the droning of wind and the rumbling of thunder. Her name is Erika Martin. Dissolve to Erika dressing herself for a party, paying attention to every detail. We see her rolling stockings up her legs, tightening her corset, and finally donning a gem-studded armband as we hear her internal dialogue.
Lately, it seems like the metaphors that could describe my life have taken physical form. The icicles in the window have become like prison bars, blocking my view of the future and telling me there's no way out. And yet, the wind howls outside, beckoning me to break out and change my life for the better. The ticking of the clock next to my bed is a constant reminder that I live in a world dominated by men infatuated with using science to define nature.
Dissolve to a fourth-floor kitchen window with huge icicles hiding a snowy courtyard. Ghost-like images of a 1920s-era steam train and then a zeppelin appear against the window as if it were a TV screen, fading to a reflection of Erika herself, dressed in her lingerie, holding her dress. She walks back to her vanity and finishes dressing as she continues to contemplate.
They make bold and short-sighted attempts to create their own concept of order from the prismatic clay of the perfectly chaotic natural universe. Yet, even Mother Nature seems to have turned her back on me. For all that the sun has periodically melted the icicles in the window, the very act of melting them has only made them longer and stronger each night when they refreeze, undoing any progress made by the meager sunlight. In the end, it's as if we have lived in a twilight world, and the moon feeds the ice so it grows like a living thing. But these metaphors are not limited to this room. The bars in the window and the rituals of time and technology are all around me wherever I go, and the winds of change are building into a tempest like none have ever seen. I have waited, and I have planned, knowing that one night, everything could be changed in a way that cannot be undone.
The loud ring of a 1920s-era telephone shatters the calm of the moment, startling Erika. Cut to Erika's face in the mirror as she picks up the phone.
Hello?
Your taxi has arrived, Miss Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll be right down. Yes, thank you. Merry Christmas. Goodbye.
Erika hangs up the phone, takes a deep breath and puts on her hat, and her determined expression reflects in the mirror. Dissolve to exterior Westminster Hotel, early evening. A well-dressed couple, Jenny and Jim, are standing near the main entrance of the hotel, and the woman accosts Erika as she tips the doorman after she exits the building.
Pardon me, miss, but would you be able to spare a dime to contribute to the Anti-Tuberculosis Fund? Jim and I are doing our best to make up for the shortfall in the funding for a new wing in the hospital, but we can't do it alone.
It's a cause very close to my heart now, since my own pappy died from consumption only 3 weeks ago.
My condolences to you. It is a terrible way to die. Here's a $50. Merry Christmas.
Erika walks carefully to the taxi and gets in as the driver holds the door open for her as Jim and Jenny walk down the steps and turn to canvass the rest of the neighborhood.
As P.T. Barnum used to say, there's a sucker born every minute. We're making serious dough with this consumption sales racket, Jen.
Yeah, but we'd better blouse in the morning and head for Idaho before they figure out we're not on the level.
Yeah, we'll eat like royalty tomorrow night in Boise.
Dissolve to interior, a 1920s taxi, early evening. Erika and the taxi driver, Aaron Lincoln, sit inside the cab as he prepares to depart.
So, are you ready for the Christmas party, Miss Erika?
Yes, It's time.
Title card: The Revenge of the Bride of Frankenstein. Dissolve to exterior Frankenstein Mansion Estate, early evening. Two young women, Nikki Michaels and Bianca Reisner, carry guitar cases as they walk side by side along an avenue of mansions.
Well, as fun as it's been playing for the rich and famous today, Bea, we haven't even made as much in tips as we did on Halloween.
There's more to life than money, Nikki. Besides, it's Christmas. We're supposed to be focused on the spirit of giving.
I know, but it would be a lot easier to think that way if we weren't so broke. I wasn't even able to buy you a decent present.
That's okay. At least we have...
At least we have what? Jeepers, Bea. What is it? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Oh, it's nothing. Just a bit of déjà vu.
Well, we have been here before. This is the Frankenstein place. We played here during the summer festival. But that's not what you meant. I can see it in your eyes.
Bianca remains silent for a moment. Then she bites her lip and nods.
It's the nightmare you had after Thanksgiving, isn't it? Ever since you woke me up, screaming my name that night, you've been like this. I'm used to you being quiet. It's just your way. But something is different. I wish you would tell me.
Let's just go home, all right? We've made enough to make the rent, and I'll be happy just to spend Christmas with my best friend. Gifts or no gifts.
Okay, but we're already here. We might as well play one more medley before calling it quits. You're right, though. It's getting really cold now that the sun is down. And the wind and snow are becoming more bone-chilling than Christmassy.
Okay.
Act 2. The House of Frankenstein. Dissolve to interior, a 1920s taxi, early evening. The taxi slowly makes its way down the snow-laden street as Aaron speaks to Erika.
It's not just the rumors of strange animals creeping around the place, Miss Erika. It's the type of people who live there. Everybody gets along fine here in Spokane as long as we all stay in our proper place. I know you don't need me to explain.
No, you don't. I know exactly what you mean. It's the 20th century, yet we still have to mind our place because of the color of our skin. If it helps you feel less concerned, I have an invitation from the lady of the house. It seems that the only colors that matter to her on Christmas are red and green.
Box wrapped up in a pretty bow could just as easily hold a viper as a kitten.
So you think I'm walking into a trap? Is that it?
Well, you said it, not me, Miss Erika. I'm just saying, you could spend the holiday in a place where you don't always have to watch your back.
The taxi slows to a stop, and we see an imposing mansion in Tudor Revival style set back from the street. The wind blows the falling snow across an estate marked with enormous leafless trees, and the dark clouds swirl ominously in the sky. Something small and black runs past, possibly a cat. There is a driveway that leads all the way up to the main entrance. Aaron doesn't presume to use it, but parks the taxi at the curb.
Maybe that's the very reason I need to spend it here, so that maybe next year you won't be afraid to drive me to the front door.
Just be careful, all right?
Oh, I will, I promise you. Don't worry about me too much, my friend. I may be little, but I'm not as fragile and vulnerable as I seem.
Exterior, Frankenstein Mansion, early evening. Aaron nods, gets out and walks around the taxi to open the passenger door for Erika, then closes it once she disembarks. She reaches into her purse and hands him a $5 bill.
I'm not sure I can break this. Your fare from the Westminster was only 2 bits.
I wasn't expecting you to, Aaron. Thank you for being available so late when others were already on their way home to get out of the cold and snow. Now you get home to Ruth and your little ones and stay warm.
Wow, thank you so much. You're the bee's knees, Miss Erika. God bless you.
I think God abandoned me to the darkness a long time ago, Aaron.
There is an awkward silence as Aaron is uncertain how to respond.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Aaron gets into the taxi and drives away, allowing the more distant sound of a passing steam train to be heard. Then a church bell begins to toll slowly, a dog barks, and the melodious sound of guitars drifts and echoes upon the wind, seeming to come from the mansion itself. Erika takes a deep breath and walks towards the mansion, which looms larger and larger. At the main entrance, we see the musicians, Nikki and Bianca, seated on the concrete benches on opposite sides of the door. Erika respectfully stands at the top step leading to the portico as they finish, and then she casually drops 2 shiny half-dollar coins in the open guitar case in front of Nikki in perfect timing with the last note of the song. Removing a small cluster of bells from her right boot, Nikki's eyes light up as she sees the denomination of the coins.
Gee whiz, that's more than we've made all day, Bee.
Well, consider the source, Nikki. Thank you, Erika. Merry Christmas.
The 2 musicians both stand to simultaneously embrace Erika as an old friend.
You've earned it, my friends. Happy Christmas.
Well, you just made our day.
The front door of the mansion opens, cutting Nikki off mid-sentence. The face of one of the housemaids, Isabel Moritz, appears in the opening. At the sight of Erika, she screams in terror and runs from the door, leaving it open, and begins calling for the lady of the house. Off-screen.
Lady Elizabeth! Oh, saints preserve us, Lady Elizabeth!
Amidst the continuing drone of the wind, we hear the muted sound of a roaring fire and the rapidly approaching heeled footsteps of Elizabeth Frankenstein.
Heavens, what is it, Isabel? A ghost, milady? Surely not. Who would haunt us on Christmas Eve? Justine. Oh, nonsense. Why would Justine ever want to haunt us? And you left the door standing open so the snow can come in, but left our guests standing outside in the cold. Really now, Isabel.
The door to the mansion opens wider, and we see the elegantly attired Elizabeth. As she sees Erika standing outside with the musicians, her eyes narrow, and she smiles softly, almost sadly.
Please forgive us, ladies. Something startled our dear Isabel. I'm so sorry you were left standing in the cold.
No harm at all. I was enjoying the music and talking with Nikki and Bianca. They're from the Junior League.
Of course. Thank you kindly for coming, Miss Martin, and thank you for entertaining our guest while she waited for me, ladies. Unless you have any other plans, you are also welcome to stay for dinner. I find myself with 2 unexpectedly empty chairs. It would be a shame to have such wonderful food go to waste. We have guest rooms so that you don't have to brave the snow and wind at night. Would you care to join?
Well, you don't have to twist my arm. I am sure the meager fare waiting at our apartment would hardly compare, Lady Elizabeth. We'd be honored.
Wonderful. We're very happy to have you with us. Welcome to the House of Frankenstein.
Interior mansion entry and hallway, early evening. The 3 women carefully file past their hostess into the long hallway. First Nikki, then Bianca, and finally Erika. They pause beneath a large chandelier as Nikki gazes in awe at the sitting room across from the main parlor. We can hear a roaring fire and a conversation between a man and a woman echoing from the parlor in the background.
Are you all right, Nikki?
What? Oh, yes. I've just never seen so much gold in one place. Except maybe at the end of that pirate movie, Treasure Island. But that was in black and white.
Well, we're not pirates, if that has you worried. It's only gilding, Nikki. I'm sorry if it seems ostentatious. You'll find quite a bit less gold in the rest of the house. May I take your coat?
Oh? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Isabel appears at Elizabeth's side, collecting the ladies' coats and hanging them opposite the fireplace to dry. Once all the coats are hung, Elizabeth directs the ladies to the parlor across the hall.
Our other guests are already in the parlor warming themselves by the fire. Isabel, please check with Brenda in the kitchen. Yes, ma'am. Erika, I'd like to address the matter of the library book I borrowed last week before I return to the party, if you don't mind waiting for a moment.
Not at all. I will simply sit and warm my bones by the fire. It's rather cold out with that relentless wind blowing about.
Wonderful. Thank you for your patience. Right this way, ladies.
Elizabeth leads Nikki and Bianca across the hallway into the parlor where they are greeted enthusiastically by Helen Thomas and Dr. Alistair Brown. Interior, mansion parlor, early evening.
Well, look who it is. Alistair. This is Nikki Michaels and her friend Bianca Reisner. I met them at last month's Junior League meeting. Welcome, ladies. This is Dr. Alistair Brown, a colleague of Dr. Frankenstein, and my date for the evening. Merry Christmas.
There are smiles and handshakes all around as everyone stands near the fire to enjoy the warmth.
Hello, Helen. It's a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Brown.
The same, Nikki. Please, just Alistair this evening. Merry Christmas. Helen and I were just discussing the famous black cat analogy. You familiar with it?
I don't think so, but I do love black cats. Do tell.
Dissolve to interior, the gilded sitting room, early evening. Elizabeth walks in with a small volume and a magazine in her hand, which she hands to Erika, then sits in a chair next to her.
Thank you so much for waiting. I appreciate you recommending Hemingway's latest work to me. I like to keep up to date on the popular books. Also, although it is slightly flawed, I also found a story in this magazine intriguing. It was easy to identify with the main character initially, due to his memory loss, and it was quite gripping in the end. The author has potential.
You're very welcome, Elizabeth. You're referring to H.P. Lovecraft's contribution to that edition, I believe.
Yes, The Outsider.
It is powerful.
I'm so sorry about Isabel. It's been so long. I didn't think she would remember.
It's quite all right. Considering the circumstances, her reaction was understandable.
You're always so patient.
I have learned to be.
Come, please join us. Henry should be along soon. Is everything ready from your perspective?
More than ready. In truth, we have no choice but to speak to him tonight.
Then let it begin.
Both women stand and walk across the hallway into the parlor. Interior, mansion parlor, early evening.
Oh, no. Bianca and I are just two starving musicians. I work for Van Ostel Hoffman Music Company, teaching basic guitar lessons and selling instruments. And Bianca works in the dress department at Macy's. Our wages aren't enough to buy the instruments I sell. Fortunately, I did some promotional work for a local luthier, and he was willing to customize our harmonies to improve their resonance for us, so they sound much better than the ones you can normally get from Sears.
It's true.
Everyone laughs along with Nikki as Elizabeth and Erika walk into the parlor.
There you are. Come join us by the fire, Erika. It's nice and warm.
Thank you, Nikki. I am still somewhat chilled.
What was all the screaming about, Elizabeth?
Oh, it was nothing. Something startled Isabel, that's all.
She was probably just happy to see you hired additional help to serve dinner.
Alistair.
Not at all, Dr. Brown. All of these ladies are our guests. Allow me to introduce Erika Martin, assistant librarian from the Downtown Central Library, and a translator at Gonzaga University.
My apologies. What language do you translate, Ms. Martin?
I am fluent in 4 languages, Dr. Brown. To be specific, French, Greek, ecclesiastical Latin, and of course English. I first served as a translator in France during the Great War, where I was assigned to a lieutenant in the U.S. Army Signal Corps.
She's also very modest. She plays piano and writes stories and poetry, too. She wrote the ghost story for tonight's entertainment.
She's a true lady of letters, then. I look forward to hearing it.
I hope you'll enjoy it. What is your area of medical expertise, Dr. Brown?
My primary specialty is cardiology, but I also have some skill in crisis medicine. I, too, served in the Great War as a battlefield medic.
He saved a patient's life the other day. It's an interesting story. Go on and tell her, Alistair.
It was all in a day's work, I assure you. You see, last week a distinguished patient was brought into hospital by a member of his staff, coughing, sneezing, and struggling to breathe. It was so bad he could barely speak. Although others suspected the sudden onset of a virulent and potentially contagious disease, I recognized that it was more likely that his weakness for shrimp scampi at the Devonport was his undoing. A few subtle questions in the administration of a shot of epinephrine, and it was only a matter of time before he was right as rain. His case may have baffled others, but it was child's play for...
A loud click is heard from the other side of the room as Alistair is speaking, and the Victrola near the entrance to the parlor suddenly surges to life, playing a recent production of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Visibly annoyed, Elizabeth interrupts Alistair.
Oh, bother.
Elizabeth rushes across the room to the Victrola as the music plays.
I beg your pardon?
Sorry, Alistair. The Victrola is broken.
It sounds fine to me.
Elizabeth turns and faces him with a hand on her hip and an eyebrow raised while she waits for a moment. Then another click is heard, and the music rapidly increases in speed, making the once dignified Christmas chorus sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alistair's expression changes to one of astonishment as the music shifts again as the spring inside the Victrola loses tension and the song shifts from a parody of a carol to the solemn tones of a dirge in seconds. Elizabeth turns back to the Victrola, lifts the lid, and quickly raises the needle, scratching the record. She then closes the lid and turns back to face Alistair and the group.
There. Are you satisfied, Doctor? Or do we need to prod the patient for another performance to convince you that she is sick?
No, thank you. I agree. Miss Victrola is quite unwell, and I'm afraid her condition will require a specialist. Yes.
Everyone laughs except Elizabeth, who is embarrassed and frustrated.
My apologies for the interruption, everyone. This contraption has been broken since September. I have asked Henry. Where is Henry? Fine Christmas party this is, where the host neglects his guests. Isabel, please fetch Dr. Frankenstein and let him know all of our guests have arrived.
Yes, ma'am.
Erika and Elizabeth sit down as Brenda Wharton, the cook, appears from the kitchen.
Dinner is nearly ready, Lady Elizabeth. Thanks to the help from the other staff before they went home, we'll be ready to serve in 5 minutes.
You are a wonder, dearest Brenda. Thank you. At this rate, you will equal your father's culinary skill in no time.
I thought Wolf and Ludwig would be joining us. Did the storm make travel too treacherous?
Sadly, neither of my sons were able to attend. Wolf has been at university in Paris, studying science and medicine in hopes of following in his father's footsteps. And Ludwig, his younger brother, is studying psychiatry in Vienna under Dr. Freud. For all that their studies are adjourned for the holidays, they prefer not to travel so far. I only received the telegrams this morning.
That's too bad. Well, tonight's entertainment will be one they will be sad to have missed.
Yes, well, considering how often we practiced it, it should be performed for a much larger audience. Still, it should be better than listening to a broken Victrola.
Helen laughs as we hear the sound of a door being opened and then slammed closed by the wind.
Why do the staff keep calling her Lady Elizabeth? I know they're rich, but isn't that a bit much? Elizabeth doesn't require it. It's just old habit. Some of the staff worked for the Frankensteins in Europe, where they are landowners. Our hostess is the wife of a baron, who also happens to be a doctor. Oh, that makes sense.
Cut to interior, the foot of a steep staircase just inside the mansion service entrance. Early evening. Isabel, noticeably covered with snow, shivers as Mirdombrelle, a small black cat, slips in before she closes the door.
You again. Where did you come from?
Reacting to Isabel's irritated tone, the cat turns to her and hisses. Isabel shakes her head and ascends the stairs. And as she looks away, the cat walks through the wall as if it were a ghost. Cut to interior, a huge 1920s era kitchen. Early evening.
She got in again, Brenda. Who did? That weird kitten. She followed me in when I came back from the laboratory. Well, it's a cold, snowy Christmas Eve. Even a stray kitten deserves something to eat and a warm place to sleep. Don't you think? Have you seen her? I know cats can have eyes of different colors, but hers are all just wrong somehow. And for all that she's been lurking about for months, she hasn't grown an inch. She looks well fed and groomed, but something is stunting her growth. Sometimes she startles me by appearing out of nowhere when I'm sure no one has gone out or opened a door to let her in. Maybe she likes you. I don't know. I've been meaning to talk to Lady Elizabeth about it. Neither she nor Dr. Frankenstein have mentioned adopting a kitten, and yet here she is, obviously well-fed and coming and going as she pleases like she owns the place.
It's odd I've never seen her. You think she'd be attracted by the smells from the kitchen.
Dissolve to interior mansion parlor, early evening. A man's booted footsteps approaching mark the arrival of Dr. Henry Frankenstein. As he appears on the left, Brenda reappears behind him to announce supper.
Oh, good. There you are, Doctor. We were beginning to worry. The supper is ready, milady.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. You're a godsend as always. Henry, where have you been?
Before he can speak, Frankenstein's face goes pale when he sees Erika. There is an awkward silence between them for a moment before Erika breaks it.
Good evening, Doctor. Merry Christmas. I'm Erika Martin, a translator at Gonzaga University and a librarian from the Spokane Central Library, where your dear wife checks out books both for her and yourself.
Oh, of course. Where are my manners? Welcome, Ms. Martin. I am Dr. Henry Frankenstein. Thank you for joining us for Christmas dinner. I have a crucial experiment I must monitor, my darling. You know that.
Oh, of course. How silly of me. Please join us in the dining room, my friends. The holiday feast awaits.
Dissolve to interior lavish mansion dining room, early evening. All are seated, with Dr. Frankenstein at the head of the table and Elizabeth at the foot. Alistair on the doctor's left with Helen on the right. Bianca is to Helen's right across from Nikki on Alistair's left. And Erika is seated on Nikki's left on Elizabeth's right, but with no one sitting across from her. Everyone has a steaming bowl of aromatic soup and a glass of ginger ale in front of them, and the sound of spoons clinking against fine china and expressions of satisfaction dominate.
Alistair and I saw the most curious movie at the Liberty recently, Beverly of Graustark. Did anyone else get to see it? I wanted to, but I didn't have the money when it was in the theaters. I love Marion Davies. Do tell. Jeepers, I'm sad you missed it. Yes, Marion played a dual role again, this time as Beverly Calhoun, a co-ed home from finishing school who masquerades as her cousin Oscar, the prince of a little country called Graustark. It was really funny, romantic, and interesting. She ends up meeting this goatherd and hires him as her bodyguard. Hold on, she is masquerading as a prince? Yes, she does an amazing job, too. There's chase scenes, fights, and of course, romance. Marion is so expressive as an actress, too. There's a scene at the beginning of the film where she is eavesdropping at the keyhole of a door, and her father opens it while she's crouching there. Her change of expression is so perfect. I could have died laughing. I'm tempted to get my hair cut like hers, too.
Heavens, please don't, Helen. These flapper haircuts are already too short. Personally, I found Douglas Fairbanks in The Black Pirate far more enjoyable. The Clemmer is a much nicer theater, too.
He is quite dashing. It's true. Yes, it was very good. But there was too much sword fighting and too little romance for my taste.
But you wouldn't want to cut your hair short like him, right, Nikki? I notice both you and Bianca don't sport the latest flapper cuts and hats. I bet you both have good conservative mothers guiding you to maintain tradition.
No, it's not that. It's...
Nikki looks down at her soup and then covers her face with her napkin to hide that she is crying.
It's not that at all, Dr. Brown. Nikki's parents both died when she was a baby. Her father died in a bar fight, and her mother committed suicide. My parents both died from tuberculosis when I was 6. We're both orphans who met in the foster care system. Nikki wears her hair longer so she looks like her mom in the only photo of her she has. It's her way of remembering her. I loved the idea so much, I started doing the same.
Bianca's confidence then falters as she glowers at Dr. Brown for making Nikki cry. So she turns to Nikki and grabs some cheese bread and bites it forcefully.
Sorry to get emotional, Alistair. Not everyone has family to go home to.
Oh, that's too bad. Sorry, I didn't know.
It's okay.
As the others are chatting, Elizabeth and Henry are exchanging glances when Elizabeth notes that Erika hasn't touched her soup and is looking at her bowl, then back at the table while raising an eyebrow.
Is there something wrong with your place setting, Erika?
Yes, actually, there is no spoon.
Ah, and I seem to have one nestled with mine.
Elizabeth hands Erika her extra spoon, and it appears to bend for just a moment.
Thank you kindly.
Try the cheese bread too, Erika. It's delicious.
Well, I heard something very encouraging yesterday at the hospital that I'm sure everyone will appreciate. The trials of the anti-tuberculosis vaccine we received from France are going extremely well. We may finally have an effective cure for consumption. That's true. While the distribution and administration methods are still limited, the BCG vaccine shows promise.
Well, bravo then, doctors. I've been buying Christmas seals for the last 9 years to fund research for that very cause. I propose a toast to our doctors and their efforts to stamp out the scourge of consumption.
Hear, hear, to the doctors.
All except Henry and Alistair raise their glasses and drink.
To the
All the
doctors.
doctors.
At that moment, Brenda arrives with the main entree, a ribeye roast, placing it in front of Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Brenda. Everyone, you may not know it, but the chef who orchestrates our meals, David Wharton, is the head chef at the Silver Grill at the Hotel Spokane, famous for its roast beef. Our dear Brenda, David's daughter, has perfected her application of his recipe and technique to provide this exquisite ribeye roast. Henry, would you do us the honor of carving it?
It would be my pleasure, my darling.
Henry stands and picks up a large carving fork and knife and proceeds to slice generous portions from the enormous roast. The sound of the cutting is quite gruesome, reminding us that humans are carnivorous, and we are monsters to the animals we eat. Dissolve to Act 3, Terror by the Fireside. Interior mansion parlor night. Everyone is gathered by the fire. Unbeknownst to everyone save Erika, Mirdombrel is hiding near a large potted plant next to the fireplace. Isabel stands ready with more ginger ale, and Brenda is returning from gathering plates from serving Weihnachtsstollen. Erika is returning to her seat after gifting a small box to everyone in the room.
Yes, as I was describing for Helen and Nikki earlier, philosophy has been compared to searching for a black cat in a dark room, whereas metaphysics is like searching for a cat in a dark room when there is no cat. And theology has been ridiculed as similarly searching for the same darn missing cat, yet exclaiming, "I found it!" Of course, science is superior, since it's more like questing for an actual black cat in a dark room using a flashlight. Wouldn't you say, Henry? Of course. I think the results of modern science speak for themselves. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
Ergo sum, ergo cogito. True, Doctor, science does provide an effective model for intellectual inquiry, but I think Descartes got it backwards. It should be, I am, therefore I think. Perhaps the black cat analogy doesn't go far enough. One might say reality, too, is often akin to using a meager flashlight to desperately search the impenetrable gloom for a black cat, without realizing that the cat is huge, monstrous, and is hunting you.
There is an awkward silence as everyone easily visualizes the now monstrous cat in the shadows.
I don't hear anyone disagreeing. So, I was walking down Main Street the other day when suddenly I saw a man get run over by a car.
Heavens, the poor man.
Not at all. By the diamonds on his watch, he had to be a millionaire. I love that one. I could tell jokes all night. But I believe Ms. Erika and our hostess have a much better entertainment planned for us.
Yes, I think it's time for the traditional scary Christmas story.
Ooh, I love these.
I do hope you enjoy it then, Nikki. Before I begin, I would appreciate it if you would all do me the honor of opening my gifts for you. I think you will find them interesting and worthy keepsakes.
A moderate shuffling sound of ribbons being removed from elegant red boxes ensues, with small sounds of excitement from Nikki and Bianca in particular, followed by gasps of astonishment. Everyone except Elizabeth and Erika now holds a self-luminous, crystalline 2-inch sphere containing bubbles that move and periodic streaks of light that subtly trace the pattern of a pentagram in 3 dimensions.
Interesting luminescence. Is there a chemical solution inside? Is it fragile?
Wow, I love it. Are they all the same?
Remarkable indeed. If not chemical in origin, there must be some element of electrical conductivity involved, yes?
Isabel, who is standing near Elizabeth, steps closer to Erika and quietly addresses her directly.
It's beautiful, and I appreciate such a nice gift, but I sense there is more to it. What is it?
Consider it your own personal good luck charm. Keep it somewhere secure, and it will help keep you safe.
Sorry about earlier. It's just that you look just like my sister who died a long time ago.
No need to apologize. Sorry to have frightened you. Please consider my gift to you as being given to you on her behalf.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
As Isabel steps back next to Elizabeth, Erika addresses the group.
I'm very happy you like your gifts, everyone. While I'm sure the elemental compounds in the crystalline spheres contribute to their luminescence, Dr. Brown, to refer to them as a solution would be similar to referring to glass as a liquid, which belies our personal interactions with it. Yes, Dr. Frankenstein, electrical connectivity is part of the source of luminescence. While they all look similar, Nikki, they are individually unique. To address your question of fragility, Dr. Brown, it's about as fragile as a stone. The only way it could be broken would be if you were to willfully destroy it yourself. I hope you all find them to be worthy of a place in your collection of valued gifts. And now, I am honored to present my story for your entertainment, accompanied by the music composed by our most beautiful and esteemed hostess. The tale for this eve of Christmas is Nikiros, or The Shadow of Asclepius.
Erika nods to Elizabeth, who turns to the piano keyboard to play the opening theme and accompaniment to Erika's story.
Long ago, in ancient Greece, the walls between worlds were thin as shadows, and 'twas not uncommon to encounter things mysterious and forbidden that we now dismiss as fancy or delusion. In our time, we sit in comfort, firmly believing in our interpretation of the cosmos. But through my words, I will craft a lens through which you'll see our sense of safety is not, but an illusion. Return with me in your mind's eye and gather your courage, for you will need it to survive in the age of gods and monsters. 'Twas in Athens, beloved of the goddess Athena, lived a young man of great intellect and skill by the name of Nikiros.
Fade to exterior, the Acropolis at Athens, circa 500 BCE, midday. 2 men stand in conversation before the Parthenon under stormy skies. One, Asclepius, is of iconic stature. The other, Nikiros, is lean and youthful. Fade to exterior, the Acropolis at Athens, circa 500 BCE, midday. 2 men stand in conversation before the Parthenon under stormy skies. One, Asclepius, is of iconic stature. The other, Nikiros, is lean and youthful.
Your work in healing the wounded soldiers today was excellent, my friend. You were learning very quickly.
Thank you, but my skill is yet only a pale reflection of your own, my teacher.
Perhaps. But in time you'll take your place amongst the finest physicians in Athens, I assure you. Just keep to your studies as you have, and believe in yourself.
Aradmi, a young woman with curly, blonde hair, walks up casually behind Nikiros, standing at a respectful distance.
Have no fear, Asclepius, for Nikiros never shirks from the lessons you give him. Sometimes I wonder if in becoming a doctor's wife, I am embracing a life of solitude.
Nikiros turns to embrace Aradmi.
It is for the sake of our future together that I am so diligent in my devotion to Asclepius' teachings, dearest Aradmi. You will see. In time, I will be a renowned physician, as my father, Ephirion, has predicted.
Then I, too, must continue to progress in my own preparations if I am to become the wife of Athens' greatest doctor.
Skilled I may be, and more so I may become, but the title of greatest is boastful and dubious at best.
Aradmi and the men walk away from the Parthenon as they converse.
Wise words, Nikiros, for even the most skilled of us always has something we can learn.
Even you, Asclepius?
Yes, even me, Aradmi. Indeed, this very hour I am to visit with Chiron the Centaur to learn more about the complexities of medicine. Today I expect to gain knowledge that could still the hand of Thanatos and extend a man's life.
Aradmi screams as she and Nikoros are violently thrown to the ground by the force of a thunderbolt from above as it strikes Asclepius, killing him instantly. Dissolved to exterior, the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, late afternoon. Nikoros and Aradmi stand before the temple, visibly troubled.
The oracle's message was so frightening and confusing. I'm not sure what to think. What are you going to do, Nikiros?
What I must, dear Aradmi. I will travel to the library at Alexandria to gain the secrets needed to bring Asclepius back from the realm of Hades.
But what of the oracle's warning regarding thwarting the will of Zeus? She said he killed Asclepius to prevent him from allowing the race of man to overrun the earth.
You said once that you would be making preparations to become the wife of the greatest doctor in Athens. Return then with my father's men and prepare. For although some may call me conceited to say so, when I return, I shall be the greatest physician the world has ever known, and more. For I shall gain the hidden knowledge needed to bring Asclepius back to the realm of the living, and return life to all who have died due to the merciless hand of Zeus.
Dissolved to interior, a chamber within the library at Alexandria, night. Nikoros sits surrounded by scrolls and codices, studying feverishly with eyes lit with a determination bordering upon madness.
Nikiros studied endlessly for months, never taking time to enjoy the pleasures of the city itself. Yet the day came when he knew he had discovered the secret of undoing the deeds of Zeus, and had gained a power possessed by only one god, Hades, lord of the underworld. When he returned to Greece, Nikiros found Aradmi overjoyed, and his father Hephaestion advising that the time to wed Aradmi was nigh.
Fade to black. Fade in. Interior, the house of Hephaestion, late morning. Nikoros stands in travel garb before Aradmi and his father Hephaestion.
Ah, but my son, do you not think it wise to rest and celebrate your marriage to Aradmi before setting forth on this arduous journey? You've but lately returned from Alexandria, and we've all missed you so terribly.
Please, Nikiros, please stay. I have made my preparations as I promised. You have already proven your skills as a physician. What can be gained by journeying to the mountains of Parnithia?
Too long have we been the puppets of the gods. Too long have they played dice games with our lives, making bets on our survival or demise without regard to our suffering. What can be gained? When I return from Parnitha, I will bring with me the key to life and death.
Aradmi clings to Hephaestion as Nikoros strides forth into the countryside. Dissolved to interior, the mountain stronghold at Parnitha, late afternoon. Nikoros works tirelessly at what appears to be an altar encrusted with snow as a hunched figure, Ogor, arrives carrying a burden.
I have returned from the battlefield, master.
Did you obtain what I requested?
Yes, but not without peril. Every day the soldiers seem more suspicious at my efforts to bury the dead. For all that, they know nothing of your task. I'm tired. I must rest from all this frantic digging and gathering.
The rewards for our efforts will far outweigh any fatigue and misery we now endure, and the Boeotians' frequent incursions to this territory give us a unique opportunity to complete our task. Think not of abandoning your employment to me, Ogor, or I shan't be mending your spine when I'm done.
Yes, master.
Ogor lifts up his heavy burden, and the wrappings around it come loose as it falls upon the snow-encrusted altar, revealing a large heart and a severed human head whose eyes seem to stare lifelessly at the viewer. Fade to interior, the mountain stronghold at Parnitha, night. Nikaros and Ogor work feverishly to assemble the enormous body to house the spirit of Asclepius from the body parts of slain Greek and Boeotian warriors in a chamber with an atrium open to a stormy sky. The colossal form lies packed in snow upon the altar.
Everything is nearly complete. Not a moment too soon, for the time is nigh that Queen Persephone shall come forth and rejuvenate these snowbound mountains from the heartless grip of winter. And then we must act.
How will we know when she is coming?
Selene, the eye of Artemis, will turn red, and darkness will reign for an hour as the gates of Hades are opened.
Selene is nearly hidden by the storm. And won't Queen Persephone notice what we're doing?
Not before the task is done. Now, check. Wait. Look. The reddening begins. Open the scroll.
Ogor places an enormous parchment over the snow-encrusted form upon the altar. The symbols and geometric patterns glow and fade in and out of existence, both upon the parchment itself and all around the chamber, as if they were drawing lightning and starlight down from the sky.
Return, Asclepius, my friend, my teacher, to the realm of the living, free from the chains of death, and be reborn. Make haste. A new life awaits. Together we shall usher in a new age in which even death shall not stop us.
A bolt of lightning strikes the form hidden in the snow. The creature and the thunder rumbles and echoes deafeningly. Cut to black. Fade in. Interior, the mountain stronghold at Parnitha. Night. The clouds part overhead and the light of the full blood moon illuminates the scene. Nikaros steps gingerly to the head of the still motionless creature as Ogor backs away into the approaching Aradmi.
The eye of Artemis is upon us!
Ogor nearly knocks Aradmi off her feet as he flees. Aradmi runs to join Nikaros.
Nikaros, my darling, I have come at your father's bidding to bring you home.
Aradmi, how came you to this place? Did you come alone?
No, your father's men and your brother accompanied me to the foot of the mountain, but they refused to take the path to the stronghold for fear of its reputation.
I had asked that you not come to keep you free from the less savory aspects of my labors, dear Aradmi. But now that you are here, you may share in my joy. Look! It's alive! It's alive!
The giant form which had lain hidden in the snow rises suddenly, sitting up and opening its fierce, blazing eyes.
Nikaros, what have you done?
Asclepius, my friend, look not so sternly upon me, for it was I that drew you forth from your underworld prison.
The creature's eyes narrow, and he reaches out to seize Aradmi and draw her to his breast as he stands. Tall as Polyphemus, the Cyclops, and twice as terrifying. The light of the blood moon intensifies before losing its red hue, and in that moment Aradmi vanishes from the clutches of the creature.
What is this? Aradmi, where have you gone?
The creature forcefully throws Nikaros to the ground and growls angrily as it lumbers down the moonlit mountainside as Nikaros lies stunned. A small black cat appears and licks his face.
Those eyes. I know those eyes. Oh, Aradmi, what has become of thee? Ogor was right to flee, for Artemis has loosed her vengeance upon us for releasing Asclepius and entrapping her sister Persephone and Hades in his stead. What injustice that you should suffer from my error.
Fade to exterior, the Parnithon Mountains, night. Nikaros tearfully carries the cat down the mountainside, uncertain where his creature has gone. Soon the trail of death left in its wake leads him to where it has been trapped upon the roof of a local village temple to Hades, within which it had hidden once the villagers had gathered sufficient numbers to overwhelm its strength. Fade to exterior, the Temple of Hades at Pharnikos, late afternoon. Nikaros hands Aradmi the cat to a little girl and goes into the Temple of Hades, climbing the stairs to the roof and confronting the creature.
Asclepius, my friend, what has happened to you? The first oath you placed upon me in the path of healing was harm no one. Yet now you kill indiscriminately and without remorse. I saw the corpse of my own brother at the foot of the stronghold. 'Twas my folly that brought you forth from the gates of Hades, so 'tis I shall send you back.
Nikaros valiantly engages the creature in combat, enraged that his sacrifice to bring Asclepius back has yielded only suffering and tragedy. Yet, Nikaros' rage does not equal his strength in combat, and the creature easily bests him and throws him like a rag doll from the roof of the temple. The villagers burn down the temple in an attempt to destroy the creature. Nikaros is borne unconscious by the villagers to Athens with the cat resting upon his chest. Fade to black. Fade in. Interior, Nikaros' bedroom in the house of Hephaestion. Early evening. Nikaros lies in painful convalescence with Aradmi the cat resting upon his chest.
When Nikeros had recovered sufficiently to make some account for himself, most people failed to believe that Aradmi had been transformed by Artemis. That is, until they saw her eyes. Certain that it was Nikeros' actions that had brought Aradmi to this end, the city council would have exiled him back to Parnitha had his father Hephaestion not pleaded his case. It was then that reports of murders began to reach their ears, murders of such a brutal and inexplicable manner that Nikeros had reason to believe that what Zeus's thunderbolt had awakened most certainly was not Asclepius, and guilt weighed heavily upon him.
Fade in on exterior, the courtyard of the house of Hephaestion. Early evening. Praetorius, a tall man with wild eyes and untamed hair, stands in the courtyard speaking to a young woman, Phoebe.
What is your name again?
Praetorius. Septimus Praetorius. Nikeros and I studied under Asclepius together for a time.
Praetorius? Such a strange name. Very well. Nikeros is still quite exhausted, but I will see if he will see you.
Fade to interior, Nikeros' bedroom in the house of Hephaestion. Early evening. Nikeros is intently reading a scroll with Aradmi the cat in his lap, but then throws it to the floor in exasperation as Praetorius enters.
Nikeros, my friend, it pains me to see you thus. I heard that your efforts to restore Asclepius had unexpected results.
Yes, my efforts brought forth a demon rather than my friend. It was my folly not to see that Artemis would take vengeance upon me by transforming my beloved Aradmi into a cat.
Yes, that is most unfortunate. Still, you have walked in the footsteps of the gods themselves. There are none who can even properly appreciate your achievement, except me.
How can you know what it was that I achieved? Asclepius himself did not teach the alchemical and geometric disciplines I mastered.
This is true. Yet the library at Alexandria is open to all, and I too have read the Codex of Thanatos, a book that has been said to bring madness upon the reader. But it was not madness that descended upon us, but the potential for greatness. I too have successfully given life to matter that was barren of it, although my experiments have yielded less destructive results. Imagine what we might achieve together.
No, I am through with all of this. What good is it to achieve things no other mortal has ever dreamed of, if the reward is naught but suffering?
Praetorius moves menacingly towards Nikeros, causing Aradmi to leap and run for the exit where she is captured by the badly scarred creature the villagers fail to destroy.
I expected as much from you. You do realize the blood shed by this shadow of Asclepius is upon your hands, do you not? There is one way to appease him.
Nikeros must do it.
Must do what?
You must make a female body for the brain I have grown to create a mate for him. If you refuse, you will never see Aradmi again.
Praetorius waves his hand and the creature leaves with the cat. Fade to interior, Praetorius' mountain stronghold, open to the sky, late night. Nikeros and Praetorius work on final preparations to animate the female creature, which is similarly packed in snow as the first creature was.
Feeling that he had no choice but to comply, Nikeros went to Praetorius' hidden lair in the mountains, where he learned Praetorius had employed Ogor and others whom he had blackmailed to obtain the necessary parts to achieve his twisted aim. Yet, when it came time to bring the creature to life, Nikeros prayed that Zeus might strike down Praetorius and destroy the work of his own hands.
Nikeros unrolls a large scroll over the snow-packed body, and the non-Euclidean geometrical designs upon it glow and rise upwards in 3 dimensions.
What now, Praetorius?
What shade from the halls of Hades shall you call forth to animate her? For both brain and body she has, but she is devoid of mind and spirit.
Pretorius smiles evilly and traces bizarre geometric patterns in the air.
You will see. Timeless one! Crivontai sto kartofli! Greatest of the old ones, the gate stands open. Send forth your priestess so that she might do your bidding!
Clouds gather in a storm that seems to come from nowhere, and in a single bolt of lightning strikes the supine form in the snow. The creature bride. She slowly sits up and looks in fascination at Nikaros. Fade to interior, the dining room in Pretorius' secret dwelling. Morning. The creature bride stumbles and shuffles across the room to Nikaros, where she awkwardly touches his face, but then caresses it with her hand.
In only a matter of days, the would-be creature bride gained strength sufficient to stand and walk, and while she as yet had no words to express herself, her eyes hinted at a keen intelligence not yet fully awakened. Then it was that the shadow of Asclepius came and laid claim to his mate.
Fade to interior Pretorius' mountain stronghold, open to the sky, late evening. Pretorius stands near the entrance as Nikaros' first creature enters carrying Aradmi the cat. Upon seeing Nikaros, the cat struggles and breaks the hold of the creature by biting him, then jumps down and runs to Nikaros. The creature bride watches in fascination from across the room.
We have a visitor. Aradmi. Oh, though you are still a mere cat, I thank the gods that you are safe.
Nikaros' first creature ignores the reunion and lumbers over to his would-be mate, but she screams in horror at his appearance and stumbles to Nikaros. She hisses and lashes out in self-defense as her unwanted suitor tries to touch her.
She hate me like everyone! You lie, Pretorius!
The creature stomps to where the elaborate scroll used to animate the creature bride lies upon an open altar.
No, leave that alone. You will unleash the will of Hades upon us.
The creature takes the parchment in his hands, unmoved by Pretorius' warning.
It matters not. We belong dead.
The creature rends the huge parchment in two. The light grows suddenly dim, and everything begins to shake. He storms over to Pretorius and the creature bride, blocking them from escaping. Nikaros runs in the twilight, carrying the cat, narrowly avoiding trees and boulders until he reaches the valley below, where he looks back to see Pretorius' secret workplace collapse inward into the caldera of a volcano. As the sun begins to rise, the figure of a woman looms out the shadows. It is Persephone, queen of the underworld.
Nikeros, you have the blood of many of Gaia's children upon your hands, but you have also broken the barrier, which kept me from leaving Tartarus to be with my mother in Olympus. While appreciation for your deeds is not warranted, I am not without mercy, and there is one here who has been unintentionally wronged, whom I can assist. Artemis, dear sister, hear me. Let not this poor child suffer the rest of her days as a mere cat, but grant her the ability to take human form as she wills.
As Persephone vanishes, Aradmi the cat leaps from the arms of Nikaros to transform into her human form, only to return to his arms again. They walk together into the light of dawn, with the collapsed volcanic caldera in the background. Fade to interior mansion parlor, night.
Overjoyed, they embraced and walked forth into the light of Eos and Helios, and left the forested mountains of Parnitha, never to return. It was said that Aradmi became immortal that day, having gained the favor of both Persephone and Artemis. I wonder what mysteries she could share, if we should meet her on a night like this.
And runs to jump on Erika's shoulder. Unaware of the cat's presence, all in the room save Erika and Elizabeth are startled and gasp in surprise, with Helen giving a small scream.
Oh my goodness!
All applaud except Henry, who sits glowering silently at Erika. Erika bows slightly, careful not to unseat Mirtambrel.
Yes, well done. It seems our metaphorical black cat is rather more literal. What do you think, Henry?
It was an interesting tale.
Well, I think it was wonderful. But shouldn't we be on our way, Alistair? If we stay much longer, we may get stuck in the snow.
Oh? Oh, you're right. We'd better blouse.
I'll get our coats.
What about you girls? Do you need a ride? I have my Bentley parked up the street near the Finch place where Helen and I celebrated earlier.
No thanks, we're Jake. Bianca and I decided we'd take Lady Elizabeth up on her hospitality and stay in a guest room when we arrived. We walked a lot today, busking about Brown's Addition.
Busking?
It's a term Nikki picked up in Paris. It means playing music for donations.
Ah, okay. Yes, I suppose you'd be tired.
Definitely. I love these boots, but my dogs are barking. Thank you so much for inviting us, Elizabeth. We appreciate the hospitality you and Dr. Frankenstein provided us for the holiday. Merry Christmas.
Elizabeth walks Alistair and Helen to the door, who are followed by Isabel and Brenda.
Thank you for coming, both of you. Merry Christmas. Thank you both for your excellent work this evening. Please enjoy time with your families, and we'll see you Monday. I think you'll find your Christmas gifts quite wonderful.
Thank you, Lady Elizabeth. Merry Christmas. Sorry about earlier. She just looks so much like...
I know. She certainly does. It's all right, dear Isabel. Please don't give it another thought. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve you and your guests in my father's absence. It's a real feather in my cap that I was able to do so well without him guiding me and the rest of the staff today.
You're so very welcome, Brenda. You have all the potential to match your father. You will always be welcome in the kitchen of the House of Frankenstein. Merry Christmas.
Just before Elizabeth closes the door, Mirtambrell jumps down from Erika's shoulder and goes out after Brenda, but pauses just outside the entrance. With her ears back, her whiskers twitching, and her tail thrashing about. Elizabeth smiles as she closes the front door and turns to return to the parlor. Act 4, Born of Lightning. Interior, mansion parlor, night. Dr. Frankenstein is pouring himself a glass of wine near the Christmas tree as he struggles to control his emotions as Elizabeth returns from seeing their guests out while Nikki and Bianca compliment Erika.
That really was an impressive story, Erika. With Elizabeth's accompaniment, I almost felt like I was at the movies, but with the pictures in my mind while hearing the words and music, as opposed to seeing the images and words on screen while hearing the music.
Yes, just like that. You must have practiced for some time. Where did you find the inspiration for your tale? I must know.
Yes, I think we all need to know.
The story of Nikiros was inspired by my extensive reading of ancient Greek mythology, 2 other books I read, and my personal life experience.
Which Greek myths?
The epic tale of Prometheus and the love story of Pygmalion and Galatea.
How does your personal life fit into the story? That sounds fascinating. Did you travel in Greece? Did you fall in love with a handsome doctor?
No, nothing like that.
Well, then it appears that not even your friends truly know you. Just who are you, Erika Martin?
Erika looks at Elizabeth, who nods slowly. Then she looks intently at Henry.
Are you so certain that you don't already know? Very well then. I have not deceived you. I am who I say I am. My name is Erika Martin, but it is how I came to bear that name that has relevance to the tale of Nikiros and Aradmi.
Erika pauses for a moment, struggling for words. Then she looks directly at Henry.
The circumstances of my birth could be considered unique. While most people can easily relate how they were born from the union of a man and a woman and raised as a child in some city or village, I was drawn into this world from another plane of existence, into a body that was made for me. Yet, to know my origins, we need only change the details of the tale of Nikiros from metaphorical to factual. My story begins not 2,200 years ago, but a mere 22, and rather than in the city-states of Greece, it begins in a Swiss village not far from the town of Reigelberg, a village named after the family whose influence there goes back centuries, the noble family, Frankenstein. If we change Hephaestion's name to Alphonse, then we know the true name of Nikiros, Heinrich, known more familiarly as Henry. We can then easily discern Aradmi's identity in our world, our most beautiful and generous hostess, Elizabeth. We need not involve the gods of ancient Greece for the more fantastic parts of the story, for the thunderbolts of Zeus are easily recognized by our educated minds as lightning. The parts of the tale that I must confess are entirely fictional lie in the motivations that men of science might have to explore the mysteries of life and death through chemistry and electricity, with the aim of literally creating life via the reanimation of dead tissues. I shudder to think of the gorier details of how the bodies of your creatures were assembled, Doctor. For all that you must be commended for your brilliance and skill, considering you were still only a student at the time, without the medical and scientific degrees you now hold.
Now, see here.
Fade to exterior, at the edge of the Frankenstein estate near the street. Night.
It's sad what the world is coming to, isn't it?
What do you mean?
I mean how some people don't seem to know their place. We had to tolerate their presence recently in the movie theaters. And tonight, somehow, one of them got invited to a party in high society.
Are you referring to Erika?
Of course. I was reading in Charles Davenport's book on eugenics earlier today, and I think it's high time for us to apply his principles to society more broadly, at higher levels of government. Undesirable traits such as pauperism and heterochromia, both of which Erika has, could be eliminated from society through the general practice of reproductive sterilization in the case of individuals having such traits.
What is that?
The condition of having eyes of two different colors. Didn't you notice? Erika's right eye was blue while her left was brown. A clear sign of genetic abnormality. Government-regulated sterilization could eliminate such degradation of the gene pool. Segregation of different races is crucial, too, to prevent those with poor judgment from irrationally choosing a mate from the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak. Do you follow me?
As Alistair finishes his question, a bearded man on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle with a sidecar turns the corner, driving very slowly.
Yes, I follow you. I've read some of Dr. Davenport's book on that subject, too, although not recently. I may just be a secretary, but I work in a medical office, after all. You may be interested to know that at least one of your colleagues doesn't share your views.
Helen waves with sudden enthusiasm and shouts to the motorcyclist.
Mr. Balfour, hi! Merry Christmas!
The motorcyclist pulls over to the curb, stopping close to Helen and allows the bike to idle.
Well, hello, Helen. Fancy meeting you here in Brown's Edition. Merry Christmas.
Oh, yes. Well, Dr. Brown and I just finished attending the Christmas Eve party at the Frankensteins. We hobnobbed about at the Finch's party earlier, too. I'm about partied out. Are you going somewhere? Or are you just out enjoying the Christmas lights?
I'm just out enjoying the lights as usual, Helen. Although I was about to head home. Snow's becoming a bit too much to deal with. I spoke with your dad earlier. He was lamenting not seeing you today.
I knew it. He always puts on a brave front since Mom died. But in truth, he's just a big, broken-hearted teddy bear. I'll be fine. Go have fun, he said. I need to get home right away, Mr. Balfour. Do you still have an extra helmet in your sidecar?
Of course. Helen, I've known you since you were a teenager. Call me Paul, please.
Oh, of course, Paul. I think maybe it's time we got to know each other a bit more intimately.
Helen, what are you doing?
Oh, it's all right. I'm just catching a ride home with Paul, my next-door neighbor. I've ridden with him to see the Christmas lights every year since the war ended, until tonight. What was I thinking? You're right. I should stay in my place. How crazy was I to think that Erika's different-colored eyes were beautiful and fascinating? Oh, wait. It's because my older sister has eyes like hers. Do you think my mother should have been sterilized? Then I would never have been born. Good night, Dr. Brown.
Taking Helen's cue, Paul kicks the bike into gear as he grins and drives away, punctuating his Christmas greeting with 2 quick honks of the horn.
Merry Christmas, Dr. Brown. Merry Christmas, Dr. Brown. I'll tell you what you can do with your Merry Christmas. You can keep it in hell, bastard.
With that final sentiment, Alistair takes the crystal sphere Erika gave him as a gift and hurls it forcefully onto the street in the direction of the departed motorcycle. The sphere explodes into 100 fragments of prismatic light, and an eerie, glowing plasma cloud spreads and hovers over the snowy street.
What the hell? I should have figured that black bitch is some kind of anarchist, giving bombs out for Christmas. I better get back and tell Henry.
As Alistair rapidly pivots to reverse his course, he sees a 20-foot sphere similar in appearance to the tiny ones that had been in the crystal he destroyed. The sphere is clearly electrically charged, and a cloud of the same plasma and painfully discordant sound emit from it. The sphere is directly in Alistair's path and coming towards him, and his forward momentum carries him face first into it. He has no time to react, and the very touch of the sphere causes his body to melt and disintegrate like wax washed with acid under a blowtorch. We see his face frozen in a mask of pain and horror as the skin and muscles of his face melt away in less than a second. Then the sphere is out of sight, and the only remnants of Alistair Brown are the bones of his lower legs poking out of his expensive ankle boots. A moment later, a pair of stray dogs runs to the scene, sniffing curiously about. One of them barks at the other. Then they each grab a Christmas gift of tibia and fibula and run away happily, wagging their tails. Dissolve to Interior Mansion Parlor, night.
Henry, you asked her. Let her speak.
Oh, very well.
Thank you. Doctor, please know that I have taken pains not to have this conversation with you for some years now. It is only due to the hidden motives of others and unforeseen circumstances that have forced me to come forth from the shadows of your past. In all honesty, I look back and wonder now at the marvelous blend of 20th century science and timeless non-Euclidean geometry in the machines and solutions you created. Indeed, even the near cyclopean masonry of Castle Frankenstein contributed indirectly to your success. As I have said, I don't know why you were compelled to make your first creature, but I know something about why you made me.
Pretorius!
Yes, Nikki. Dr. Pretorius.
And he grew a brain for you?
As fanciful as it sounds, truth is stranger than fiction.
We traveled a great distance at considerable expense to escape the shadows which you claim is your place of origin. All right, then. Let's presume, for the sake of scientific inquiry, that what you have said is true. How do you explain your very presence here, when the laboratory was destroyed by my first creation? And how then do you explain the change of racial features and stature?
So it is true.
Dr. Brown referred to science as being like trying to find a black cat in a lightless room with a flashlight. That is part of the risk of following the path of science. As you explore the gloom with your meager flashlight, there are other things in the darkness that can now see you because of the beacon of your faint and narrow beam. But they are nearly invisible to you because your flashlight can only reveal a small aspect of them. And to them, you are either an unwelcome intruder or easy prey.
Overlay. A young Dr. Frankenstein and Elizabeth stand looking at the ruins of Dr. Pretorius's laboratory.
Please remember, you asked me. After your first creature destroyed the laboratory of Dr. Pretorius, you left Elizabeth, never to return. You left all of us for dead, as if none of us were worthy of saving from the suicidal actions of your monster, and for all that he may have gotten with his wish to re-embrace grandmother death. Neither Dr. Pretorius nor myself were killed in the explosion. Dr. Pretorius did sustain internal injuries from falling debris which eventually took his life, but not before he saved me from dying after only so recently being born from the storm and the weird science you had crafted. My body had been crushed beneath fallen masonry, and I was in unbearable pain. Yet somehow Dr. Pretorius kept me alive long enough to transplant my brain into the body of a young woman who had committed suicide while awaiting execution for a crime for which she had been framed. Yes, I know who she was, as you do. Justine Moritz, the nursemaid of African descent who cared for your younger brother William. It was she that your nameless creature framed for the murder of your brother. It was only after the destruction of the laboratory that she took her own life. The timing could not have been more perfect. Dr. Pretorius was able to obtain Justine's body from her jailers by pretending to be the undertaker who would see to her burial in a place appropriate for a suicide, but he did not know who she had been.
Dissolved to Interior, Dr. Pretorius's guest room, night. Dr. Pretorius's face and torso are eerily illuminated against the background of the ceiling of a dark room. His eyes are wild yet keenly focused. Dissolved to Interior, Pretorius's living room, morning. Erika, with long, disheveled hair, is awkwardly walking away from us towards a seated Dr. Pretorius. Dissolved to Interior, Pretorius's kitchen, night. Erika, attired in tattered white dress stained with blood, stands looking down at the corpse of Dr. Pretorius. She is facing away from us, and we cannot see all of what she sees. She turns towards us, and we can clearly see the scars and bruising beneath her blue eye and across her forehead from where her scalp was reattached after the brain transplant, as well as the rats eating the remains of Dr. Pretorius. She then gathers food items, places them in Pretorius's travel bag, then steps out into the night. Dissolved to Exterior, the foggy streets of Frankenstein village, night. Erika wanders down a gas-lit street until she sees something move to her right. We then see her from the side, mesmerized before a storefront. We are at an angle to the storefront and unable to see what she sees. She reaches out to touch the window and recoils in shock. Cut to Erika's point of view. Erika is startled and fascinated by her own appearance in a mirror in the storefront window. She touches the scars on her face before a brunette woman, the angry storekeeper, steps next to the mirror and begins shouting and gesticulating wildly at her through the closed window, further startling her. The woman rushes out of the shop, wielding a broom like a battle axe, and drives Erika away, shouting angrily at her.
Verschwind von hier, du Tuvelin! Givig!
Erika runs through the dark, foggy streets until she finds a wagon laden for transport, into which she climbs and immediately hides, peering tearfully out into the night like a frightened kitten. Then she slowly closes her eyes. Fade to black. Fade in. Exterior, an alley in Paris, France, night. Erika is lying asleep in the wagon when we see her startled awake by its sudden stop. Hearing the driver coming, she goes to climb out, but he sees her and begins yelling at her.
Hey, qu'est-ce que tu fais là? Je vais te mater.
As he pulls out a gun, Erika hisses at him and runs down the alley into a busy street, surrounded by sophisticates, mostly women, who regard her with disgust. Reeling, she runs for the next alleyway, periodically colliding with well-dressed strangers. Dissolved to Exterior, a wooded area near the scene, night. Erika sits with her head on her knees, worriedly staring out at the river. We hear her stomach growl, followed by the voice of a woman, Mother Superior, speaking softly.
Are you hurt, my child? You really shouldn't be here. This is the private estate of a most unpleasant man.
Erika slowly moves to try to get away, but she is exhausted and falls to the ground. The dignified figure of a nun is silhouetted against a grove of beautiful trees in the sunset as she reaches out her hand. Erika takes it and is slowly helped to her feet.
Come, my child. I see you need my help. The abbey is not far.
Dissolved to Interior, the hallways of the Abbey of St. Martin, morning. Erika walks silently beside Mother Superior, clad in a similar habit which hides the scar on her forehead. The bruise under her eye is gone, and its accompanying scar unnoticeable.
Erika, please return my books to the Abbey Library after you finish cleaning the classroom.
Oui, référente mère.
Fade to Interior, a classroom at the St. Martin School for Girls, midday. Erika attends to her daily duties, sweeping and organizing a classroom, distributing food to the schoolgirls, erasing and cleaning the blackboards. She shoulders a heavy bag as the children gather to give her a hug before they leave, silently following Mother Superior.
I learned quickly, and it was only a matter of weeks before I was able to speak rudimentary French. I joined the students when Mother would teach the young girls Latin and mathematics, earning my keep through physical labor. The children assumed I was a nun because I was dressed as one, but it was not until I took my vows that I was given my name, and my surname now is but an abbreviation of the name of the patron saint of my adopted mother. My capacity for learning soon astonished her and all those she assigned to teach me. In less than 2 years, I had learned Latin and Greek in addition to French and was constantly building my skills.
Dissolve to Interior, the Library of the Abbey of St. Martin, late afternoon. Erika works alongside an older nun, both smiling as they order and clean the shelves in silence.
When not completing my numerous chores, I began to read voluminously, visiting the Abbey library so often that I was eventually assigned to assist the librarian, and when she died from consumption, I assumed the role of librarian myself. It was a quiet, peaceful life, and I was content with my religious vows, keeping to myself often enough that some assumed I had taken a vow of silence. However, nothing lasts forever.
Dissolve to Interior, the Library of the Abbey of St. Martin, early evening. Erika works alone, shelving stacks of books.
In the summer of 1914, a book was brought to me that had been taken from the dwelling of a deceased heretic to be placed with the forbidden volumes until the bishop could come to determine what to make of it. But the bishop never came, as he was killed en route to Paris during a German air raid as the entire world became embroiled in the Great War. It was after a day of administering to the sick and dying that I returned to the library.
We hear an explosion as Erika is thrown to the floor by an unseen force and an avalanche of books falls on her. Next to her head is a placard reading Interdite, French for forbidden. Fade to black. Fade in. Erika awakens, still lying beneath a pile of books. We hear her bones cracking as she rights herself, crying out in pain. Sighing, she begins cleaning up the mess.
As my sisters were busy dealing with fire and preventing the loss of life, no one came to assist me, and I eventually awakened amidst a chaotic mess of dusty tomes. In righting the shelves and placing the errant texts back where they belonged, I found myself holding the massive volume that the bishop would never evaluate. It is never a good sign when the name of a book is not inscribed upon its cover or spine.
Erika sits before her translation desk with the Latin version of the Necronomicon before her, reading and writing earnestly as the sun rises and sets in the window.
I immediately realized why it had been forbidden. It was a medieval Latin translation by Olaus Wormius of an occult text in Arabic. As my usual responsibilities were reduced by the harsh realities of the war, I found myself with more time on my hands than usual, and I spent many hours through that year poring over its worm-eaten pages and filling a notebook with my own scribbles until I had read the entire accursed text, in spite of the nightmares it caused me.
Erika stands next to her translation table, binding a notebook to the Necronomicon with twine. And then she turns and walks out of the library and down a long corridor with a haunted look upon her face.
In the end, I bound my own humble notebook in French to the unmarked work of evil so that any of my sisters who might be assigned the task of obtaining or evaluating it would be saved from the hellish labor of determining its nature. Then I placed it on the shelf with the other forbidden tomes, hoping never to see it again.
Overlay. As Erika walks alone through the corridor, ghostly images of Cthulhu, Nyarlathotep, and other horrific entities surround her.
Yet I was haunted by the eerie sense of déjà vu I had felt when I read it, and my determination to understand the uncanny familiarity I felt with the monstrosities and unwelcome distant places lurking within its accursed pages, seeming doomed to failure. I should never have assumed to be free of its insidious influence, as no god nor jinni had the power to fulfill my desire. For it was through reading that evil thing that I realized that I have what some call an eidetic or photographic memory. The more ardently I sought to forget, the more I remembered.
Dissolve to interior, a makeshift hospital room, mid-afternoon. Erika stands writing notes in a booklet near a blonde woman in a wheelchair, Melinda Roberts, who speaks with a British accent after a severe coughing spell.
Please take this to Lieutenant Edwards at the American Airfield. These instructions are a matter of life and death.
Gladly. Hopefully you will be well enough to travel soon so you can go home. You have been here over a year.
I fear that is unlikely, my dear Erika, and truthfully, my assignment as translator for the Royal Flying Corps is more important than my health. It has been a blessing you have learned English so quickly.
Dissolve to exterior, the ruins of the St. Martin School for Girls, late afternoon. Miraculously unscathed by a raging fire, Erika tearfully carries the broken body of a dead girl from the ruins of the school as a German fighter plane passes overhead. The very flames seem to part before her like mice running from a large cat.
In early 1917, natural instincts and behaviors in me that had lain dormant were triggered by the stress of the bombings and the daily sight of death. So it was one sadly momentous day one of my sisters witnessed something about my appearance that terrified her and prompted her to file a complaint with Mother Superior. Although I understand what frightened my sister now, back then her accusations seemed unjust.
Dissolve to interior, Erika's room at the Abbey, night. Erika stands crestfallen in profile facing Mother Superior.
Must I go? I have done nothing wrong, and the Royal Air Command is sure to send a replacement for Miss Roberts.
Dear Erika, I do believe that you are not a witch, but in spite of the habit you wear, you are not a nun.
Zoom in. As Mother Superior leaves, Erika sits silently upon her bed and begins to sob as if each breath is a blow to her body. Fade to black. Fade in. Exterior, the American airfield near Paris, July 1918, midday. Zoom in. Erika stands stoically in civilian garb under cloudy skies, her eyes hidden by sunglasses. As the camera zooms out, we see that she is standing next to a Sopwith F-1 Camel fighter plane.
Mother Superior had apparently negotiated with the American military with Melinda's aid. Since I had learned to speak and write English, I was given an assignment with the United States Signal Corps to serve as a French translator for the British and American commanders. That night, and nearly everyone that followed until the end of the war, I cried myself to sleep.
Fade to exterior, the gates of the Abbey of St. Martin, morning. Erika stands facing away from us, viewing the ruins of the Abbey. All that remains standing of the once noble institution are the gates. She collapses to her knees. Fade to black. Fade in. Exterior, a dilapidated and war-torn neighborhood in Paris, late morning. Erika walks slowly down a street strewn with debris and marked by ruined buildings.
After the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, fate smiled upon me, for the recommendations of Lieutenant Edwards landed me a position, albeit a low-paying one, working as an assistant librarian at the University of Paris. Much to my chagrin, I could only find lodgings in a converted hotel populated by courtesans, but I was glad to have a roof over my head. I maintained the situation for the majority of the next 2 years, but I had to go through additional trauma in order to achieve my current level of comfort. The day came when I had to relocate, and it proved to be a turning point in my life. The low-rent apartments where I lived were scheduled for demolition, so they could build new ones with rents so high the former residents couldn't afford to stay.
Dissolve to interior, a small octagonal room at the top of a mansion tower, midday. Erika sits before a small desk where she pulls a black leather book from her travel bag, opens it, and begins to translate it.
When I finally found a new place, a tiny loft in a mansion that had been leased out as apartments, I initially bemoaned the very limited space, until I realized it was the perfect place to translate the various books I was constantly working on. That's when I found it. As I unpacked my meager belongings, I noted a book bound in black leather that looked familiar, yet I was certain I'd never read it. Then I remembered. I had seen it at the bottom of the travel bag I had taken when I left the final laboratory of Dr. Pretorius. Since I hadn't known how to read at that point, let alone translate a journal of medical science written in Latin, I had left it in the bag and it had simply been forgotten.
Dissolved to Interior, the Library of Medicine at the University of Paris, early evening. Erika sits working diligently at a desk surrounded by books in an enormous library.
I translated it over the course of the next several weeks, utilizing my position at the university to research the more obscure scientific and medical terms. However, on the 8th of August, 1920, after spending weeks of research, I had an epiphany, and all the mad pontificating and rambling blended with meticulous notes on scientific processes that seemed to be documented nowhere else suddenly all blended together in my mind into a cohesive whole, and I knew what I was, from where I had come, and why I struggled to fit into society wherever I went. I was beside myself with uncertainty, fear, anger, and sadness.
Dissolved to Exterior, the back streets of Paris, 1920, early evening. Thunder rumbles as storm clouds roll in as Erika wanders aimlessly.
As the sun began to set, I went out to clear my mind. Instead, something happened which awakened the sleeping demon tigress within me, never to sleep again.
Hearing a scream from a red-headed woman in an alley to her left, Erika stops abruptly and sees the woman is being assaulted by Pierre, a disheveled man with a mustache.
What are you doing?
Aidez-moi, s'il vous plaît.
Silence! Je t'ai dit de taire.
Get away from her!
Vous êtes fougon, n'est-ce pas? Eh bien, Pierre peut te casser.
I said, get away.
Erika extends her right hand and speaks rapidly in an unintelligible language, almost as if in a trance.
Vampira hafotia irai eiturana ikano poirdan diete hoepialia aniai shro.
Taken aback, Pierre stops while holding his knife as if to strike. Then streaks of light seem to descend from the sky and alight all over him, making curiously chaotic, happy tones and instantly causing him to burst into unnatural flames. He screams in fear and agony and runs a few paces before his body disintegrates into a black dust. We hear a receding sound that eerily resembles laughing children as the flames vanish. The red-headed woman is nowhere to be seen. Erika walks slowly to the pile of dust as the rain begins to fall, washing it away.
Thou shalt not kill.
Erika walks into the twilight as the storm thunders overhead. Dissolved to Exterior, a Parisian storefront in a thunderstorm, early evening. Huddled under an awning, two young women we recognize as Nikki and Bianca stare despondently out into the rain.
Holy cats, it's cold for August B. I'm so glad you changed your mind and decided to come with me to Paris. I don't know what I'd be doing if you weren't here with me.
Starving alone instead of starving with me, I guess.
Well, at least we got to see the Eiffel Tower.
The camera reverses its view and we see what the girls see. Dark storefronts on an empty street flowing with rain and the top of the Eiffel Tower peeking out over the top.
Yeah, it looks swell even from here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, Nikki, don't worry. We'll find a way out of this. The American consulate has to be around here somewhere.
Nikki nods, holding back tears.
Come on, let's practice our new song. Maybe someone more depressed than us will be out walking in the rain and give us a tip so we can eat.
Erika comes up and listens to them play from just around the corner. She starts moving towards them at the end of the song.
Hey, you changed the solo at the end. Sounds sadder than before, but I really like it.
Thanks. I guess it's because I've never felt so lost and hopeless before.
Nikki sobs as Bianca holds her, barely able to refrain from tears herself. As Erika approaches, her complete loss of emotional control makes her truly look like a monster, a walking shadow with luminous eyes surrounded by unearthly energy.
Oh my God! B! Look!
Bianca loosens her embrace and the two musicians stare in fear and wonder at the ominous shadow figure approaching them.
We gotta get out of here.
Yeah, but to where? We're lost, and we're backed against a storefront in a storm.
What is that thing?
Erika's footsteps slow to a stop a few paces from the musicians, where she stands in the rain, leaving them staring at her from beneath the relative shelter of the awning. The energy aura around her recedes to reveal her despondent figure as she cries and extends a hand towards them tenuously.
I am sorry. Please don't be frightened of me. I mean you no harm. You play beautifully.
Erika opens her hand and drops some coins into the guitar case in front of Nikki. Then she turns to walk away.
Wait!
Erika pauses and looks back at Nikki.
Nikki, what are you doing? Are you trying to get us killed?
B, I don't know why she looked so scary at first, but look at her now. She's just a girl alone in the rain, and she's sad. Maybe she needs our help. What's more, if you didn't notice, she speaks English. We need her help.
Nikki and Bianca stand up, and Nikki steps slowly towards Erika.
I know it's not much, but would you like to join us under the awning? It's starting to rain cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs. You are Americans. Yes, merci. I am cold.
My name is Nikki, and this is my best friend, Bianca. We're stranded in Paris because we were robbed almost immediately after we arrived. We need to find the American consulate so we can go home. Can you help us?
Enchantée, Nikki, and you, Bianca. My name is Erika Martin. Yes, I would be happy to help you. The American consulate is not far from here.
Oh, good. Could you also direct us to a cheap restaurant? We're starving, and your tip is the most we've received all day.
It's late, and the American consulate is likely to be closed for the day. My tip will not buy you much for dinner, and I am guessing you were planning to sleep in the street after eating it. I don't have much, but if you will come with me, I can offer you some food and a place to rest for the night.
Thank you, Erika. That's the best news we've had in days.
Dissolve to exterior, the base of the Eiffel Tower, midday. Erika, Nikki, and Bianca are all standing together near the Eiffel Tower, laughing like old friends.
The day that threatened to be the worst in my entire life suddenly turned around and became one of the best, for I met two of my dearest friends.
Dissolve to exterior, the deck of a ship at sea, mid-afternoon. Nikki is playing Fur-Elise on her guitar aboard a ship as Erika and Bianca stand watching nearby.
Soon, Nikki and Bianca were on their way home to America, and since I had no real reason to stay in France, I went with them.
Dissolve to interior, the observation car aboard a train, morning. The three girlfriends are sitting having coffee as Nikki talks animatedly in the background. Then they all laugh.
It was a long journey across America to their home here in Spokane. My reference letters from the university, the U.S. Army, and Mother Superior opened the door for me as a translator at Gonzaga University, and thanks to Nikki's connections in the Junior League, I was able to find a position at the Central Library downtown.
Dissolve to interior, the Spokane Downtown Central Library, mid-afternoon. Erika sits behind a massive wooden desk with reading glasses perched on her nose, working on something we can't quite see, surrounded by stacks and shelves of books. On the desk before her, we can clearly read the title of two books, In Our Time by Ernest Hemingway and How to Mesmerize by James Coates, Ph.D., FAS.
I have worked diligently at both jobs for over 5 years, content to have found a niche in American society where I was able to prosper in ways that others who looked like me rarely did. Then one day this spring, I met someone from my past, and the reason I had been drawn to Spokane became clear. I was enchanted and frightened at the same time.
Pardon me, miss. Could you help me find a book? I'm afraid I'm not very good at using the card catalogs.
Erika looks up at Elizabeth, and they both stare for a moment, half recognizing each other.
Of course. What book are you looking for?
This one. It's for my husband. Dr. Frankenstein?
Erika's eyes grow wide at the very mention of the name of Frankenstein, but then she looks down, trying not to be rude.
Thank you for explaining. This would be a very odd book for a distinguished lady like yourself to request.
You're most kind. Some days I wish Henry would abandon his experiments and just come home and rest, or take a trip with me to the country, but it's just not his way. If he's not at the hospital, he's in his laboratory or in his study with his head in a book with an unpronounceable name like that one. But that's the life of a doctor's wife, I suppose, right? Wealth and elegance from the diligent labors of a servant to the community, but little time to share them with the man who earned them for her.
I wouldn't know. I was raised in France by nuns and lived as one for years before serving as an attaché to the American Army in Paris before coming to America.
You speak excellent English.
As do you, Mrs. Frankenstein. If I'm not mistaken, you have a slight Swiss accent, and like me, you learned to speak English from someone from Britain.
I feel as if you already know me.
My apologies. I am a linguist as well as a librarian. I only meant that you make the stilted nature of English sound almost as poetic as French. Wealth the doctor may have provided you, but the elegance has always been yours.
You flatter me, Miss...
Martin. Erika Martin.
And I almost feel as if I know you, Miss Martin.
Well, Spokane isn't that large. It's possible we have met in passing somewhere before.
No. It seems that we met a long time ago, but I can't place it. Oh well. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, Mrs. Frankenstein. Please call me Erika.
Of course. And you must call me Elizabeth.
Gladly, Elizabeth. Right this way, please.
Fade to Interior Mansion Parlor, night. Erika sits opposite Henry and Elizabeth, with Nikki and Bianca to her right.
Your story is quite touching and intriguing, but you have already proven yourself as a skilled storyteller. What proof do you have of such outlandish tales?
I knew you would need more than my word. Here is my second gift for you. Merry Christmas.
Erika hands Dr. Frankenstein a large, battered volume bound in black leather tied up in a bow with red satin ribbon.
What is this?
Open it and find out. That book and one other, penned by truly twisted and diabolical minds, have served, ironically, as crucial guideposts in the chaos of my journey through this life. Not through their encouragement or empowering wisdom, but by making me aware of the incomprehensible evils that lie in the realms beyond human perception, whether in the light of day or the abyss of a starless night.
Dr. Frankenstein unties the bow, removes the ribbon, and then hesitates for a moment before opening and reading the opening pages of the book.
This is the journal of Dr. Pretorius. Where on earth did you find this?
As I said, it was in the bag I took with me when I left the Abbey. I had unintentionally taken it with me when I found food in Dr. Pretorius's travel bag. It was still in the bag when I was forced to become a part of secular society.
So, you're a thief and a con woman.
What?
It all makes sense to me now. A bored nun in France finds the last journal of a revolutionary, if unconventional and manipulative, scientist, and since she cannot adhere to her vows as a nun, proceeds to start a new life using an identity she fabricates from the pages of the journal, weaving a tale of lies so thoroughly intertwined with the truth that even those present at the actual events would doubt their own recollection. I must say, it was rather morbid on your part to emulate the identity of my late brother's nursemaid. Considering the circumstances of her passing, she deserves to rest in peace.
Erika sits silently and broods, attempting to restrain her anger, but she fails, and we see strange energy patterns illuminating her eyes.
You are choosing to disavow my entire life experience as a lie?
What else can I do? It's all too preposterous. After all, what parts of your story that correspond with this family's history have only served as clues for you to track us to the far northwest region of America, where we'd hoped to forget the exaggerated angst of rural European villagers who believe more in rumors and hearsay than the dedicated service of a scientist and medical doctor, and the admirable efforts of his wife to bring culture and dignity to their backward communities. I can only imagine why. I expect it's our wealth and success, which we have now finally re-established. Now, I won't tolerate this foolishness any longer, even if it is Christmas. Kindly get your coat and get out of my house.
No, Henry. You forget.
Erika is here at my invitation. Don't you think I would have come to you with questions and begged you to help me get rid of her if I thought she was a charlatan? I know her, and if you had been at the party on time like I asked you to be, you would have heard Isabel scream like a child when she saw Erika. Even I thought after all these years Isabel would have forgotten, but a woman does not easily forget the face of her older sister. Justine may have died, but her body lives, enlivened by the soul of the being you drew down from the heavens on the very lightning itself. You only refuse to believe it because you cannot accept that Dr. Pretorius was a more brilliant scientist than you, and that he was able to transplant the brain he grew into the reanimated body of Justine without your help.
You talk as if you've read his journal.
I have.
Ha! Now I've got you. I don't know what you're up to, Elizabeth, but you couldn't have read Pretorius's journal. He wrote it in Latin.
Yes, Henry. He wrote it in Latin. Erika already explained that after she learned Latin, she read 2 books that transformed her view of the universe and herself, and that she filled a notebook in French from the first and translated the other into English.
Yes, so she did. You never did give the title of Wormius's work. What was the unnamed text?
It was a Latin copy of Al-Azif, the Necronomicon of the Mad Arab, Abd al-Hazred.
Dr. Frankenstein's face turns pale, and he is stunned to silence.
Oh, you've heard of it? I shouldn't wonder if you kept the company of such a devious man as Septimus Pretorius. I don't know what your motivation was to tempt the hand of fate by delving into the mysteries behind the machinations of life, but as I've read his journal, I know exactly what his motives were.
Dr. Frankenstein raises his head and looks intently at Erika as his curiosity is piqued.
Dr. Pretorius had an ulterior motive in coercing you into making a mate for your first creation. He was a lifelong member of a secret cult that worships a being so evil and powerful that I daren't even speak his name. Pretorius was given a vision of a way to open a doorway for his master to enter this world by creating a superhuman priestess who would be able to channel his energy and create portals to anywhere in the multiverse at will. Pretorius believed that if he created such a woman, he would be able to control her and gain power beyond his wildest imagination. But for all that he was able to achieve, the impressive feat of growing a living brain from its biological rudiments, creating an entire body to enliven with the restless spirit from a realm beyond the stars, was beyond his skills. That's where you come in.
A superhuman priestess. Nonsense. You could almost convince me that old Pretorius was a devil worshipper. But if this evil being is so powerful, why haven't we all heard of it?
Because to speak his name is to invite madness or certain death.
Erika has quite adequately detailed Dr. Pretorius's motives for defying the laws of death, Henry. I think it's high time you revealed yours.
Dr. Frankenstein's expression softens as he sets his jaw and nods in acquiescence.
You have always been the reason behind my work, my darling.
What?
My dearest Elizabeth, I never wanted to keep it a secret from you, but when my father learned of your condition, he was distraught. And when my mother died, he made me swear that I would find a way to keep you from suffering the same fate.
It's our turn to be incredulous, Henry. What terrible illness do I have?
Had, actually. You were born with a congenital heart defect. That's why you always used to get tired so easily, remember? When I first studied medicine, I learned that your particular defect could not be remedied with surgery. I had to learn to give you a new heart, either via conventional means or otherwise. To this day, men like Dr. Brown believe that transplanting a living heart is impossible, but I know otherwise. I've done it. But I had so much to learn before I could do it, so I could resolve the worst possible prognosis of your condition.
You mean?
Yes, my darling. I had to learn how to bring you back from the dead. Not just resuscitate you, but to actually give back what death stole in such an untimely fashion.
The heart surgery I had before Wolf was born?
Yes, Elizabeth. It was not a simple repair to a mitral valve or to unblock one of your arteries, as I led you to believe. You died in my arms on the 23rd of May, 1907. But fortunately, I had been able to rebuild my laboratory enough to be able to grow a new heart for you using the same methods Dr. Pretorius used to create a brain. I also learned his chemical formula that enabled me to bring you back to life in a matter more like resuscitation than true reanimation. Fortunately, your brain was not too deprived of oxygen, or you would have been lost to me. But even then, you seemed to lose some of your long-term memory, including those involving all of this. Still, there were unexpected positive side effects. I'm sure you've wondered why after all these years you still look as young as Nikki there, while I've begun to wither.
It's been almost 20 years. Why didn't you tell me?
I just wanted you to be happy, my darling, and not have to think of such things. Isn't that enough?
But that was years ago. Why have you continued with your experiments if you succeed in achieving the goals associated with them? You were always in the laboratory or at the hospital, and if you don't have a test tube in your hand, you have a glass of wine or something stronger in it. I wish you hadn't taken up your father's drinking habit.
I've continued with my experiments for 2 reasons. 1, because some of my work is finally being acknowledged by my peers. And 2, because while the effects you have enjoyed from the infusion you received when you got your new heart may keep you looking young indefinitely, unless I take additional steps, you will not have me with you as the years progress.
I shudder to even ask, Henry. What have you been growing out in your laboratory?
Dr. Frankenstein is silent for a moment, wearing a closed expression.
I know what it is.
What?
Oh, really? And just how did you learn this?
Every time you have reanimated something, or someone, using Dr. Pretorius's methods, you have allowed a small amount of energy from the realm of the old ones to pass into this dimension. There's nothing particularly supernatural about it. It's all just a matter of using the right angles, sonic frequencies, and radiation wavelengths, or at least so I've read. Because my brain was created specifically to channel that energy. I can sense the heartbeat of every one of your creations that you've made since Dr. Pretorius awakened me in my new body. Apparently, you were doing cloning experiments for eye transplants because I became especially connected to the kitten for which you grew and then transplanted her amber eye for a blue one. As you have no doubt noticed, Dr. Pretorius transplanted the right eye from my old body into this one, since Justine's right eye was damaged when she died. So I too have heterochromia, as a result of the work you doctors have done. I suppose I should thank you.
You still haven't explained how you know about my current experiments. Have you been spying on me?
No, you provided that window into your life yourself, Doctor. It was Mere Dombrell, the kitten whom you raised from the dead and gifted with an artificial eye, who has been watching you. She merely shared her secrets with me. Of course, she doesn't actually speak. However, due to the energetic relationship we have, again, thanks to you, Mira can communicate images of things she sees to me telepathically. That is how I know what you've been doing, because you still feed her. Something for which I am also grateful, because I am not allowed to have pets at the Westminster.
So, are you saying you're a witch and Mere Dombrell is your familiar?
Not in so many words, but I suppose that could be an accurate description.
Witches, familiars, an unspeakable godlike being worshipped by secret cultists. I've had about enough of this nonsense that I can stand.
That makes the two of us, Henry Frankenstein. Over the last 19 years, you've been so busy with your work you have neglected the very thing you claim to be the motivation for all you do. Me! Day after day, night after night, it's the same thing. Oh, I'm so sorry, Elizabeth. Maybe tomorrow, darling. I know we planned this vacation months ago, but my work has to come first. And I don't know when you started keeping brandy in your laboratory, but when you're not working, you're drinking. And if you haven't forgotten, that's illegal in America now.
Dr. Frankenstein looks at the near-empty glass of wine on the table next to him and looks appropriately guilty.
And perhaps you missed something in Erika's summary of her life. The blonde woman she befriended while working at the library was me. And we have become very close friends. I'm seriously thinking of leaving you to live with her before you make something else that destroys your laboratory, or you get arrested for buying alcohol.
What? You're telling me that you're actually considering leaving me for this dime store voodoo priestess?
Really? Now, Henry.
Well, what do you expect? I'm a doctor and a scientist, not a theosophist. Unspeakable beings from another dimension. Balderdash! What Dr. Pretorius and I achieved, we achieved through our own efforts without any hocus-pocus. For your information, Miss Martin, I read plenty of Dr. Pretorius's notes before they went into that journal, so I know the name of that unspeakable thing he thought would give him the power to travel the cosmos and eventually rule the world, and I...
Erika raises her hand to silence him.
Your experiment is escaping. I wonder what the police will do with him.
What?
See for yourself.
Don't you silence me. If it will frighten you enough to stop haunting my house with twisted tales of the past, I'll name your unspeakable monster god.
Dr. Frankenstein grabs the crystal sphere Erika gave him for Christmas and raises his hand to smash it on the floor. Erika rushes to stay his hand.
No, don't! It's your...
The doctor ignores her pleas and hurls the sphere against the rug that provides no cushioning against the hardwood floor beneath and shatters into 100 splinters of prismatic light as he shouts,
Yog Sothoth!
Protection.
An eerie, glowing plasma cloud spreads and hovers over the floor, causing the women to scramble to get away. Henry stands defiantly with his arms crossed before him, focused on Erika.
See? It's just an electrically active chemical reaction, nothing more. What is it? Elizabeth?
Elizabeth cowers in fear as she points to Henry's feet.
Henry!
Henry follows Elizabeth's gaze to his feet. Next to his right foot, the plasma coalesces into a sphere containing a very alien-looking eye which rotates in space, riveting on him as he begins to float about 4 inches above the floor.
Oh my.
Henry screams as a mass of tentacles seemingly made from the substance of the wall reaches out, seizes him, and pulls him through it, almost as if he is being absorbed or eaten. Act 4. Redemption. Cut to interior mansion parlor. Night. Erika turns to the women in the parlor, a look of frightened determination on her face.
If you value your lives and your sanity, don't follow me. And for the love of God, don't look at it.
Erika then turns and runs out into the snow and the maelstrom after Henry, careful to slam the door shut behind her. Elizabeth slumps to her knees in tears, and Nikki and Bianca come to comfort her.
This can't be how it ends. It wasn't supposed to happen this way.
You mean you planned all this?
No. Erika and I planned to confront Henry about needlessly continuing his experiments and his alcoholism, with the hope that he would be willing to acknowledge his culpability for past misdeeds, and that he might show some aspect of kindness to Erika. But you saw what happened. I'm sorry you had to witness this. It was supposed to be a civilized conversation after everyone went to bed. I have to help them.
Elizabeth gets rapidly to her feet and runs out into the snow and chaos before Nikki or Bianca can stop her. Nikki closes the door behind her and stares wide-eyed at Bianca, leaning back against the door, as if trying to keep it closed.
What are you doing?
As if you need to ask, Ms. Good Samaritan. I'm not losing you to Yog, whatever. You're staying inside with me.
Fine. But I have to see if they're okay at least. There's some big windows at the top of the staircase.
Bianca turns and runs out of the parlor to the left, and we can hear her rapid steps on the stairs.
Okay, but what am I saying? Erika said, for the love of God, don't look at it. Isn't that exactly what she said? Bianca!
Cut to exterior Frankenstein mansion courtyard. Night. Henry struggles desperately in the tentacles of Yog-Sothoth as the great old one hovers over the courtyard, lightning flashing all around him and thunder echoing deafeningly even as the snow continues to fall. Erika stands immediately below where Henry is being held as Elizabeth comes up behind her. Huge spheres of plasma and static electricity descend upon the mansion, apparently somehow all part of the monumentally enormous and terrifying being that appears amidst clouds of orange gas, periodic lightning bolts, and twisting, writhing tentacles. Startled by the chaos suddenly manifesting outside the laboratory, the figure that had been attempting to flee turns and immediately goes back inside. Cut to interior, the windows at the top of the staircase, night. Nikki races up the stairs after Bianca to find her mesmerized before the multi-paned window that takes up the entire wall at the landing. Yog-Sothoth dominates the entire view, even visible through the window frame and the wall when the lightning strikes. In addition to the roaring thunder, an unsettling sound like metal vibrating and creaking like a broken machine mixed with a musical instrument and an enormous animal fades in and out, as if it was the voice of someone speaking and occasionally pausing for breath.
Oh my God! It's absolutely hideous! And why can I see it through the window frame?
I know, right? It doesn't even match the carpet.
What? Ugh! And what is that awful sound?
Oh, come on, Nikki. It's just some late carolers. Give 'em a break. I'm sure there are plenty of people who don't enjoy our guitar work, but are still nice to us.
Bea, are you all right? I can't stop looking at it.
I know, but even if we started now, we still couldn't pull it all down before morning.
You know, Bea, I know this may be an awkward time for it, but it is Christmas, and I want to make sure that I have the chance to tell you. I know we've been friends for years, and I don't want to lose that, but I'm in love with you.
What? Since when?
Since Paris.
All this time? And you haven't told me? Why?
I wasn't sure what you'd say. As long as I've known you, you haven't had any boyfriends or girlfriends, so I didn't know which side of the tracks you were on.
Bianca gives Nikki a quick kiss on the cheek.
I'm on your side. That's where I am. Now, come on. All these years I thought there was no Santa Claus, but now he's right outside? I want to go meet him before he goes on to the next house.
Nikki grabs Bianca's arm.
No!
Why not?
Because, if we go out to see him, he might not leave our presents under the tree.
Maybe you're right. No, I can hear him calling for me. Come on.
Bianca breaks free from Nikki's grip, turns, and runs downstairs. Nikki stumbles and grabs the banister to prevent herself from falling, then scrambles down the stairs after Bianca. Upon arriving at the foot of the stairs, she is uncertain which way Bianca went, but when she hears the sound of a door slamming to her right, indicating Bianca went out the servants' entrance, she rapidly descends the stairs to the door, opens it, and calls out desperately into the maelstrom.
Bianca!
Cut to exterior, the Frankenstein mansion courtyard, night. The cosmic horror that is Yog-Sothoth dominates the entire scene, taking up every inch of space above Erika and Elizabeth. Henry writhes desperately in the massive tentacles that grabbed him, their origin now fully revealed.
Oh God, I was afraid of this.
Elizabeth steps up behind Erika, her eyes focused on her and Henry.
What are you afraid of?
Elizabeth, I told you not to follow me.
In looking at Erika, Elizabeth looks up at Yog-Sothoth, but Erika quickly covers her eyes with her hand.
Do you remember the sphere I gave you?
Yes, my sphere of protection.
Yes. As long as all of them were intact, Mr. Tentacles wasn't able to break through the barrier between the worlds or even able to see us. But since the doctor shattered his, that means our uninvited guest was not only able to break through, but he can also see anyone who doesn't have a sphere or that looks directly at him. He can't see you as long as you don't look at him and your sphere is intact. Now promise me you'll get back inside and go to the safest place you can find.
Elizabeth turns and runs towards the mansion, and as she does, a tentacle lashes out, nearly reaching her, but an unseen energy portal closes, severing about 7 feet of the tentacle from the rest as well as those holding Henry, and the remnants flop and writhe like fish as Henry falls heavily to the snowy courtyard. Elizabeth turns and looks at the flopping remnant and then screams and runs for the mansion, sliding and slipping. Erika looks up at Yog-Sothoth, whose attention is now angrily focused on her.
Yes, I used a protection spell. No, I'm not going anywhere. Something happened that you didn't plan on after you sent me here. Once I was encased in a human body, no matter how unnatural, I was freed temporarily from your influence. And thanks to my Catholic sisters, I learned there are many different ways to view reality compared to your evil, gooey weirdness. I know you've been tracking me from the beginning, and I know Dr. Pretorius offered me as a tool for you in return for giving him the power to travel the multiverse. But guess what? Dr. Pretorius is dead. I did my best not to find Dr. Frankenstein because I knew what Pretorius wanted to use me for. What I didn't count on was Dr. Frankenstein himself.
Is that true? Where's Elizabeth?
Yes, she's safe inside. I used to resent you for leaving me for dead after all you did to bring me into life, but my life as a nun taught me forgiveness. I didn't come here tonight to harm you. I came to protect you from him, and hopefully to help Elizabeth save you from yourself.
Why?
Because as twisted and strange as all this is, you are my father.
At that moment, ghostly images of Helen and Paul come roaring through the courtyard on Paul's motorcycle, passing through Erika from behind. Seeing the monster hovering above, Paul rapidly turns the motorcycle and crashes into Henry's laboratory, triggering an explosion. Alistair and Helen also appear nearby, arguing.
What the devil is happening?
Apparently you and Dr. Brown both decided to trash your Christmas gifts. The destruction of 2 of the crystal spheres has created a space-time vortex. Every time that monstrosity moves, the sequence of events since the spheres were broken starts over.
You made the spheres. What lunacy made you think they were a good idea?
Without them, you would already be dead. What manner of man weaponizes a Christmas gift?
At that moment, Yog-Sothoth unleashes bolts of lightning, vaporizing both Erika and Henry. In a cataclysmic hurricane of snow and chaos, the Frankenstein estate and the entire surrounding area is completely destroyed. Fade into exterior, the edge of the Frankenstein estate, night. Alistair and Helen stand paused where they were arguing.
That's strange. I feel like I just woke up from the most horrible nightmare.
Yes, me too. I saw the most terrifying. I don't even want to think about it. I'm just glad it wasn't real.
Yes, I agree. And what was I saying? Oh, yes! Heterochromia is the condition of having eyes of 2 different colors. Didn't you notice? Erika's right eye was blue while the left was brown. A clear sign of genetic abnormality. Government-regulated sterilization could eliminate such degradation of the gene pool. The segregation of the different races is crucial, too, to prevent those with poor judgment from irrationally choosing a mate from the wrong side of the tracks, so to speak. Do you follow me?
Paul Balfour turns the corner on his motorcycle as Helen replies.
Yes, I follow you. I've read some of Dr. Davenport's book on that subject, too.
Helen waves to Paul.
Paul, hi! Merry Christmas!
Paul pulls over to the curb, letting his bike idle.
Well, hello, Helen. Nice to see you. Merry Christmas.
Are you okay? You look a bit shaken.
Oh, it's nothing. I must have had a flashback from the war or something. I'll be all right. I was just out enjoying the lights as usual, Helen, though I was about to head home. The snow is becoming too much to deal with. I spoke with your dad earlier. He lamented not seeing you today.
I knew it. He always puts on a brave front since Mom died. But in truth, he's just a big, broken-hearted teddy bear. I'll be fine. Go have fun, he said. I need to get home right away, Paul. Do you still have an extra helmet in your sidecar?
Of course. I always carry one during the holidays in case you might choose to join me on a sightseeing ride. You've never called me by my first name before.
I know. I'm sorry about that. I'll make it up to you.
Helen, what are you doing?
Oh, it's all right. I'm just catching a ride home with my next-door neighbor, whom I've ridden with to see the Christmas lights every year since the war ended. Until tonight. You're right. I need to stay on the right side of the tracks. How crazy was I to be entranced by Erika's eyes? Oh, wait. It's because my older sister has eyes just like them. Do you think my mother should have been sterilized? Then I'd have never been born. Good night, Dr. Brown.
Taking Helen's cue, Paul kicks the bike into gear as he grins and drives away, honking his horn in rhythm to the opening bars of Jingle Bells. Infuriated, Alistair takes Erika's gifted crystal sphere and prepares to throw it.
I'll show you how to jingle all the way, bastard.
Alistair hurls the sphere towards Helen and Paul, but it shatters into 100 fragments of prismatic light, and a maelstrom of snow, tentacles, and flying debris envelops Alistair as the neighborhood is again destroyed by Yog-Sothoth. Cut to Interior Mansion Parlor, night.
How did you know Pretorius was dead?
The rats were eating his face.
As Nikki and Bianca cringe at Erika's response, the deafening roar of an enormous creature startles everyone to silence and stillness.
What in God's name was that?
Erika quickly stands, looking out the front window into the night.
There is only one of the great old ones who delights in terrorizing people, rather than merely destroying or enslaving them.
Before Erika can speak another word, an invisible force bursts through the front wall and ceiling of the parlor, and Elizabeth suddenly vanishes with a scream and a spray of blood. Cut to Interior, the foot of the stairs to the servants' entrance. Bianca grips the door handle as Nikki rapidly stumbles down the stairs and grabs her arm.
B, wait!
Come on, Nikki. We never got to see Santa when we were young. I want to see his reindeer.
B, snap out of it. We're not kids anymore, and there is no Santa Claus.
Bianca wrestles herself free from Nikki's grip and wrenches the door open.
Of all people, I never would have thought my best friend would try to ruin my Christmas. Goodbye.
Nikki desperately attempts to regain her hold on Bianca's arm as the wind blows the door against the exterior wall, but loses her grip as Bianca screams in terror when the space-time warp pulls her upwards into the sky.
Bianca!
Cut to Exterior, the edge of the Frankenstein estate, night. Helen pauses as she and Alistair leave the party.
Oh my, what is going on? I'm getting the worst headache.
Yeah, me too. I have the most terrible sense of déjà vu. What was I saying?
You just made a deplorably racist comment, and I was about to break up with you.
I what? I was sharing my reading from Dr. Davenport's... Oh my god! We're in some sort of fifth-dimensional time loop. Run!
Alistair turns to flee and immediately runs into a tree, collapsing unconscious into the snow. Helen stands still for a moment in surprise before laughing uncontrollably. Cut to Exterior, the Frankenstein mansion courtyard, night. Erika and Henry aggressively stand eye to eye as Yog-Sothoth hovers overhead, his tentacles bashing against an unseen barrier.
We traveled halfway around the world to get away from the chains of the past. How did you even find us?
I didn't. He did. I only came to America because it offered me an opportunity to start a new life with friends in a beautiful place. It was only after I arrived and met Elizabeth that I realized I was still being used in Pretorius's game with the old ones. It took me years of prayer and meditation to forgive you for leaving me for dead. I never wanted to see you again. But when I realized that Pretorius himself had been fooled, I knew I had to face you whether I liked it or not.
So you led this monster straight to my doorstep.
Henry slaps Erika, nearly causing her to fall. She immediately regains her footing and angrily hisses like a snake.
Not intentionally. I wouldn't even be on this planet if it wasn't for you. For all that my life has been miserable at times, it has been far superior to the hell I experienced before. I learned to appreciate the gift of this life. I gave you a protective sigil I made with my own hands, and you destroyed it.
Erika slaps Henry back with considerable force.
Would it have been so hard just to accept me as I am? You worked so hard to bring me to life. Why would you want to kill me?
My first creation brought so much death and chaos into my life. I couldn't bear the thought of dealing with all of that again. Honestly, I never thought you might have an opportunity for a normal life.
Henry jumps as Yog-Sothoth bypasses the invisible barrier and nearly grabs him again with tentacles that fade moments later.
The old ones never planned to kill you. They wanted to assimilate you into their fold of cultists to create an army of undead creatures. I can't let that happen.
Henry looks up at the enormous, glowing eye of Yog-Sothoth, shivering with fear and cold.
It's too late for me, Erika.
There's still a chance. At least let me give you one last Christmas gift.
Erika holds out her hand, and a glowing orb similar to the energy spheres of Yog-Sothoth appears in it, and she cautiously moves a few steps closer to Henry, careful to stay within her own protective circle. She then blows the orb as if it is a feather, and it floats to the doctor and grows in size to encompass him like a bubble, then vanishes. Henry shudders as if he was just doused with cold water.
What was that?
A memory sphere. I made it from all my memories of you when I first saw you, to the last moment we're together. If he takes you, it will stay with you throughout your time in the hellish dimension of the old ones, eventually driving you to find a way back home.
Ghostly images of Alistair and Helen arguing appear nearby, as well as images of Erika and Henry arguing and striking each other as they did only moments before. They are close enough we can hear them.
My God, what is happening?
The gateway opened by your shattered sphere is shrinking.
Is that good?
Yes and no.
Henry's expression changes to one of kindness, as if he is seeing Erika for the first time. Then it returns to one of terror, as his body becomes semi-transparent and Yog-Sothoth pulls him through the energy barrier and he vanishes.
Father!
Erika stands motionless amidst swirling snow and sparks, staring with tears of grief and anger in her eyes as tentacles writhe and bash against an invisible barrier between her and Yog-Sothoth.
I'm sorry, Yogi, old boy. Yes, I used your own energy against you. Maybe you should have treated me better when I was on your side. But you have no concept of morality, so why am I even talking to you? Yes, the portal you managed to sneak through is shrinking like an ice cube over a flame. It was never supposed to let you through in the first place.
The huge, glowing golden eye of Yog-Sothoth narrows, and suddenly several small energy spheres surge together above Erika. A parody of a human head appears, contorting and attempting to assume a human expression. Erika suddenly recognizes the face of Dr. Frankenstein's original creature as it begins to speak in a cacophonous thunder of voices.
You belong dead.
Erika stares defiantly through her tears as Yog-Sothoth's voice and the unnatural thunder from the storm echo and fade away. The blizzard-like conditions from only minutes before are gone, and a gentle snowfall is leisurely blown about by the ever-present wind. Erika shivers, suddenly realizing she has been outside in the snow all this time without a coat. She lowers her head and turns slowly to go inside, and Nikki comes out to meet her.
Is it over?
Yes, Mr. Tentacles went home.
Ah, good. Come on inside before you freeze to death.
Thank you. Yes, I would have preferred not to have had to. What is it?
What's that weird piping sound? It sounds like flutes coming from far away.
Flutes? Oh, God, I am not prepared for this.
Prepared for what?
Trust me, you don't want to know. Now get back inside.
Then you come in too.
No, it will come in after me if I do. Now get inside.
Nikki nods and frowns sadly and closes the door, holding up her hand in tearful farewell through the window. Erika wheels back around towards the street, seeing only darkness and whirling snow as she steps bravely off the steps back out into the night. The flutes continue with a steady, ominous piping as we hear the sound of something enormous landing on the ground from across the estate on the other side of the street, followed by an eerily echoing growl and the furious barking of a terrified dog. Its barking is almost immediately silenced, followed by a distinct yipe. Dissolved to exterior, the sidewalk near the backyard of the family across the street from the Frankenstein mansion. Night. The con artists from the opening scene turn the corner after defrauding the neighborhood.
I think we've managed to get a donation to our cause from every fat cat on the block.
Oh my God. I think something just killed the dog that barked at us earlier.
Nah, it sounded creepy, but I see the dog over there. Something sure scared him, though. Maybe the wind blew something onto him, and he'll keep his yap shut for a while.
We hear the rumbling growl of what sounds like a tiger the size of a house.
Jim?
Jenny pauses in her tracks as she sees footprints appear in the snow on the sidewalk ahead of her. Feline footprints, but on the same scale as a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
What now?
It wasn't the wind.
Jenny screams as she is lifted bodily into the air, then her scream is abruptly halted and her body disappears, and the last of her we see are her shoes. The muzzle of an enormous creature is revealed only by the blood dripping from it onto the snow below.
Oh my God!
Any other words are halted by the death bite of the invisible monster, causing all but Jim's legs to vanish. We see his legs thrown up into the air, and then they vanish along with the rest of him, accompanied by blood-curdling crunching sounds. The act of eating something from the earth plane causes the thing to begin to become visible, and it begins to fade into view very slowly as it digests the con artist. The beast slowly crosses the street, its thunderous footsteps echoing as if it's deliberately taking its time. Dissolved to exterior Frankenstein Mansion courtyard, night. The clouds overhead clear for a moment, allowing the full moonlight to illuminate the scene, and we see huge footprints appearing in the snow in the street. We hear the deep growling noise again as the Frankenstein family mailbox is forcefully destroyed and simultaneously ripped out of the ground. A huge swirling mass appears amidst the ominously approaching footprints as two of the enormous trees in their path splinter near their base and fall in the opposite direction, as if something the size of a whale were making its way towards us. We hear a long, deafening, and terrifying roar, yet the giant footprints in the snow shrink as they grow closer, and their pattern changes from a behemoth cat with 6 legs to those of a human. The swirling mass of chaos suddenly shrinks and takes on the body of a woman, a mirror image of Erika herself, but glowing eerily. She continues to approach slowly, glaring angrily at Erika. When she speaks, it is as if she has 2 voices, one nearly the same as Erika's, the other an octave deeper and unmistakably evil. Anyone who has seen the face of true evil will recognize her as Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos.
So, you think you've won, do you? Just who do you think you are? So convinced you figured it all out from the Necronomicon and the Journal of Dr. Pretorius. It wasn't Yog-Sothoth who inspired Pretorius to create an undead priestess. It was me. Be not so flippant in your familial allegiances, for your very essence, drawn from the realm of the old ones, is my creation. Frankenstein and Pretorius merely created a body for you. If you have a progenitor, it is I, Nyarlathotep, messenger of the demon Sultan. You would be dead already if that were not so.
You lie.
What?
My mind, emotions, and psychic abilities, yes, that is you. But my soul was not forged in the realm of the old ones. I have had a glimpse of freedom, and I know that I fell from a much higher plane than the Okul Ugranic. You are but a shadow of what lies above you.
Nyarlathotep growls as she stretches out her right hand, and Erika rises into the air unable to breathe, as if suspended by a hangman's noose. They stare at each other for a moment, Erika's defiance matched by Nyarlathotep's fury. As Nyarlathotep uses her power to bend the laws of physics, her true form appears as semi-transparent tentacles writhe around her.
Do you have any idea what plans I had for you? You could have become an imperial sorceress, unlike any this world has ever seen, with the world at your feet, and with me always ready to give you more power. Now look at you. You tried to adhere to the human moral code, and yet you took a life as easily as a child stealing cookies. You are my daughter. What do you have to say for yourself?
Erika rolls her eyes, unable to speak or breathe. Nyarlathotep scowls and loosens her fist, and Erika gasps.
You were not the only one with plans for me. I was betrothed to Frankenstein's first creature before I was ever drawn down the lightning into the inhuman brain that was grown for me. I was given no choice, no allowance for preference, and I would not be bound against my will then, nor will I be bound to serve the old ones now. You call me daughter, yet you took no action to prevent the destruction of my first body, forcing me to experience unbearable pain. Dr. Pretorius didn't know, but you knew that in order for me to become the channel for spectral energies that I am, I had to change bodies again. You used Pretorius as a pawn in your game of apocalyptic chess, and even if you made me a queen, I would still merely be a piece on the cosmic board under your thumb. Nay, I am no bride, and I am no queen. I can choose what power I will channel. I am not beholden to you because of your manipulation of the dimensional continuum. If you will not acknowledge my autonomy in this body, then you had best disown me. I will not become the imperial slave priestess of the old ones. I am not a witch. I am only a channel of the force from which all magic comes.
You have been given gifts as your birthright that others have given their lives to possess, and you choose to use them against me?
I am grateful for all that has been given me, including what you have imparted, but I know you, and your gifts always cause the demise of the people who implored you to give them. That is, if they are used with their original function in mind. The ability to channel interdimensional energies and manifest things with them is no different than a sculptor's skill at carving a statue from clay or stone. Yet it's not the artist's talent that's important, but rather the medium she chooses and what she makes with it that counts.
Erika's body is suddenly enveloped by an energy sphere unlike anything we have yet seen, and her face becomes a mask of defiance. Nyarlathotep screams furiously, and her eyes literally become ablaze with hate. She opens her fist, and Erika is hurled about by Nyarlathotep's tentacles, periodically smashing her body against the ground, finally throwing her like a doll. Nyarlathotep's face recedes, and the snowscape blurs into a speed tunnel until Erika's back and head strike against the house, knocking the breath out of her and causing her to emit a brief scream of pain. Nyarlathotep rotates her wrist, and Erika's body grinds against the side of the mansion, and we hear a distinct cracking sound, as of breaking bones. Then Nyarlathotep lowers her head and her hand, and Erika's body falls to the ground. Nyarlathotep walks slowly to where Erika lies in the snow against the mansion.
You do belong dead.
Nyarlathotep reaches down and removes the choker from Erika's neck, revealing the scar from Justine Moritz's suicide. Then she stands looking at the small crystalline sphere Erika used for her own protection before she crushes it in her hand. Yog-Sothoth suddenly looms overhead as the protective spell is broken, and the mansion vanishes to be replaced by a low pile of rubble. Yet the sound of faint, painful laughter comes from Erika's crumpled body. Nyarlathotep gives Erika a swift kick in the stomach.
You find this funny, do you?
Erika dies as she uses her final breath to speak the name of Yog-Sothoth backwards, reinitiating the spell.
Yes. Thank you, Mother. Atoiskoi.
No!
A blaze of gold light suddenly envelops the entire scene, and the mountainous, amorphous bulk of Yog-Sothoth and the furiously flailing form of Nyarlathotep suddenly shrink to the size of a marble and are contained in Erika's recrystallized talisman, and it falls into the snow next to her lifeless hand. The camera pulls back, and there is nothing but snow and devastation as far as the eye can see. Then a tiny golden light emits from the talisman, quickly expanding until the entire scene is a blur of gold and snow. Dissolved to close-up, Mirumbrel pops her head out from behind a tree and runs towards the mansion where Erika lies crumpled in the snow. She sniffs her and makes sad kitten sounds, headbutts her, then mews sadly and curls up on her shoulder. As Mirumbrel closes her eyes, we fade to black. Fade in on interior Frankenstein mansion master bedroom, night. Elizabeth lies huddled on the bed, crying. We only hear the sound of her sobs and the wind outside until there is a loud pounding coming from the wall behind her. Startled, she immediately sits up and gasps in fear as she hears Henry's voice, muffled as if he is speaking from another room.
Elizabeth! It's all right, my darling.
Henry? Heavens! I've gone mad! I'm hearing voices!
No, you haven't gone mad, my dear. I had a secret panel installed in the wall between our bedroom and my study when the house was built, so that I could come and go from the laboratory as I pleased. I know how you hate it when people track in snow or mud on the Persian rugs.
If it is you, then why don't you open the panel and come out?
Because there was an explosion that destroyed my laboratory, and it has apparently jammed the mechanism that allows me to open it from the inside. I need your help to open it.
What must I do?
I need you to lift the heavy candle on the right of the bookcase out of its holder and step back. The candle is weighted with lead, and its absence from the holder will trigger the mechanism to open the panel.
Elizabeth gets off the bed and goes to the left side of the bookcase, where she lifts a large unlit candle from its holder. The bookcase quickly begins to pivot, creating a gap in the wall, but suddenly stops after about 16 inches.
Your other right, my darling. Put the left candle back.
Oh, Henry, it is you.
Elizabeth replaces the left candle and goes to the right of the bookcase and removes the identical candle. The bookcase rapidly pivots, causing her to jump back. Henry Frankenstein steps out from the shadows of the secret passageway into the bedroom, disheveled and bruised, but very much alive. Elizabeth rushes to his arms, and they embrace.
Oh, Henry, thank God. I was certain you were dead. I heard such horrible things, and I was certain I heard you scream.
Yes, and I have seen the face of the very devil himself. But I've returned. Somehow.
Oh, Henry.
Dissolved to exterior, the mansion courtyard against the wall, night. Erika still lies unmoving in the snow. We only hear the drone of the wind at first, but then we hear a sudden painful gasp, followed by a weak cry of pain. Erika opens her eyes, sensing Mirdombrella on her. She smiles sadly.
Hey, baby girl.
Mirdombrella begins to purr so loudly we can hear it.
Yes, I'm still alive.
Mirdombrella raises her head and mews softly. Then, moving as if every movement causes her excruciating pain, Erika places Mirdombrella gently on the snow and extricates herself from her contorted posture, slowly stretching as her bones crack back into position as she cries out. She finally manages to stand, and then she stretches her arms and back, causing more nearly unbearable cracking bone noises and more desperate cries of pain from Erika. She pauses for a moment, then looks down to Mirdombrella.
Come, Mirdombrella, my darling. Tell me your secrets.
Mirdombrella leaps into Erika's arms and then climbs onto her shoulder. Erika slowly manages to make her way up the steps to the mansion's entrance, where Nikki is waiting.
Erika! Oh, thank the stars! Oh my, you're hurt!
Yes, but lamentably there is no longer a doctor in the house.
The sound of heavy footsteps is followed by Henry's sudden appearance behind Nikki.
Actually, that is not the case, Ms. Michaels.
Dr. Frankenstein! But how?
I think I know.
Well, I'm clueless. How are you here alive? I saw and heard from the window upstairs.
Let us all do our best to forget the horrors of this night, and instead give thanks. We are still alive.
I don't think I can. I lost my very best friend.
May I come inside? I'm really cold.
Oh, of course.
Interior, mansion parlor, night. As Nikki closes the door, Henry leads Erika into the parlor where he examines her back in the light. Erika faces the camera. We cannot see what the doctor sees. Henry's face is one of both concern and fascination. Elizabeth approaches rapidly, carrying Dr. Frankenstein's medical bag, followed by Bianca, who overheard the Frankensteins' reunion from the guest room and was encouraged enough to follow Elizabeth in search of Nikki.
Bianca! How?
Bianca says nothing, but rushes to Nikki's arms and holds her tightly, visibly shaking and crying softly. Erika smiles, occasionally wincing as the doctor tends to the open wounds on her back.
It's really quite remarkable.
What is it?
I think that it's best that remain within doctor-patient confidentiality. What I can say is that Erika is going to be fine. She seems to have suffered some dislocated bones and external lacerations, but I'm confident she will heal quickly.
I'm so glad you're safe, Erika.
Nikki, I think it's best that you get Bianca to bed promptly and keep her warm. It appears she's still in shock from her encounter with our uninvited guest.
Gladly. Come on, Bee. Doctor's orders. Time for bed.
Okay. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Nikki and Bianca walk hand in hand to the staircase, and we hear the sound of their ascending footsteps as they fade.
I expect you had extra clothing sent over as we anticipated you staying the night due to your efforts from entertaining us, yes?
Yes, I doubt I will ever be able to wear this gown again.
Yes, it's quite doubtful. I would recommend sleeping on your stomach tonight, and if necessary, I can check your wounds in the morning.
I think you know that is unlikely to be needed. I learned about my unusual recuperative powers during the war when the Germans bombed the compound where I was staying in an effort to destroy the American airplanes. But thank you.
Erika turns to face Dr. Frankenstein as Elizabeth stands up to join him.
Tonight most certainly did not go according to plan.
No, it surely didn't. And yet, we achieved our aim, I think.
I owe you my life, and I will live every moment of it knowing what you went through all these years and the efforts you went to in order to save me. You are my daughter, and not just a creature made to assuage the loneliness of my first creation, and most certainly not the vessel for evil as others intended. Yes, I heard your encounter with whomever injured you. You will always be welcome here, and I hope you can forgive my misguided past.
Thank you, Father. Yes, I have forgiven you, but I must request to retire at this point as well. I'm afraid tonight's exertions have left me without energy.
Of course. Thank you for my Christmas presents, especially the last one.
Good night, Erika, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
As Erika turns and walks down the hallway towards the staircase, we can now see what Dr. Frankenstein wisely hid from the others. There are numerous, long, deep wounds, making the lacerations on her chest look like little scratches, and yet we can see small, vermiform creatures moving like the sutures of a surgeon to bring the wounds closed, and strange pulsating organs and tentacle structures throughout her back. The pattern of radiance and activity spreading out from her spine and tracing the lines of her nervous system.
Oh, my.
Shh. Yes, as you can see, Erika is far more than human. Yet, she's expressed some of the best qualities of humanity here tonight and throughout her life. People once accused me of making monsters. If Erika Martin is a monster, then there are far greater evils afoot in the universe that deserve that title far more than she.
Yes, and I love her. But enough of this. You and I have a great deal of catching up to do, Henry Frankenstein.
Henry smiles as Elizabeth kisses him. Then they walk hand in hand from the parlor to the hallway, which is strewn with debris of all kinds. In the center of the hallway is the coat rack from the sitting room. Frustrated that her home is such a mess, Elizabeth lets go of Henry's hand and picks the rack up from the floor and carries it back to the sitting room. Henry is smiling as he watches her pass out of sight until he hears her stifle a scream. Then he rushes into the sitting room where Elizabeth stands transfixed. Cut to interior, the gilded sitting room, night.
Good God, it's Alistair.
Elizabeth turns and buries her face against Henry as we see what Henry does. The normally beautiful golden mantle above the fireplace and the mirror above it are horribly distorted by the shape of the head and hands of Dr. Brown. His golden hands reach out in supplication, and his face, formed by the crystalline glass of the mirror, is frozen in a mask of terror. Henry shakes his head sadly and hangs a coat from the mirror, covering the face and hands.
Rest in peace, Doctor.
Dissolve to interior, upstairs guest bedroom, night. Nikki sits on the bed next to Bianca, looking at her intensely.
I'm so glad you're safe. I don't know what I would have done without you.
Starve alone instead of starving with me, as usual.
Maybe.
I'm still scared.
Why, baby? It's all over. Mr. Tentacles is gone, and everyone is okay.
Is it really all over? Something Erika said about the black cat analogy really stuck in my head. And I can still see the...
I know. Would you like me to ask Erika to explain? Maybe that will make you feel better. I think I hear her coming up the stairs.
Bianca nods silently, and Nikki nods in assent before rising from the bed and walking into the hallway where Erika is slowly approaching.
Hey, Erika. Are you doing okay?
Yes, I'll survive.
I know you must be exhausted, but Bianca is still petrified from meeting Mr. Tentacles. She has a question about the black cat analogy that I doubt I'll be able to answer.
I know. Mirror Umbrella has been with her since she left the parlor. I'll be glad to speak with her, as long as we keep it short.
Erika and Nikki walk into the room where Bianca sits huddled in a blanket on the bed, gently holding and petting Mirror Umbrella as she purrs.
Hi, Bianca. I hear you have a question for me.
Hi, Erika. I'm so glad you're safe. Yes, you said something about the black cat analogy that's been haunting me. You said reality is like using a flashlight to desperately search the impenetrable gloom for a black cat, without realizing that the cat is a huge monster hunting you. Based on everything we've gone through tonight, I think you're right. How do you go through your life with that understanding of things? I'll be afraid to ever leave our apartment again.
Erika tries to take a deep breath, but is stymied by pain.
I understand. Yes, from my perspective, there are monsters everywhere, hidden in the light of every day, and even in the smallest of shadows holds the doorway to infinite darkness. Yet, what keeps me going and gives me courage to face the day, or the night, is my spirituality. Not just the religion that I learned as a nun, but true spiritual practice that deals with the search for absolute truth. Spirituality, too, is not unlike conducting the same desperate search for the unseen monster cat, stumbling through the dark with your flashlight. But what makes the search worthwhile is when you suddenly see the cat in a mirror and ask yourself, how in the world did she learn to use a flashlight?
Bianca looks puzzled for a moment. Then she starts laughing hysterically.
What? I don't get it.
As serious as it is, the black cat analogy is a joke, Nikki. It's very dark humor, to be sure, but it's funny nonetheless. The point of spirituality is not to find the key to some scientific principle, but rather to find yourself. In my case, the cat in the mirror is a monster, but even a monster has a soul.
I guess I have a question, too.
Yes?
After we learned your life story, I had to wonder why you didn't simply take revenge. Just about anyone would have.
Erika's smile widens as she begins to laugh, but then stops due to the pain in her ribs.
Are you so sure that I did not? I am here now, living far beyond Pretorius's fiendish plans and unbound from service to the old ones. It has been said that a life well lived is the best revenge. If that's true, and the events of this night qualify as taking revenge, then my journey on the path of vengeance has only begun.
So, you believe there's hope, in spite of everything?
Erika leans forward slightly and kisses Nikki lightly on the forehead despite the pain it causes her.
Yes, and my dear Nikki, if there is hope for a monster like me, there is hope for everyone. Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bianca calmly rises from the bed and comes to take Erika's hands while kissing her on both cheeks.
Merry Christmas.
Erika smiles as Bianca steps back and then looks at Mirror Umbrella, who jumps down to join her. Erika smiles happily and closes the door before slowly shuffling to her room. Nikki sits down on the bed, looking up at Bianca.
Now what?
Now we celebrate.
As Bianca speaks her final words, she lets the blanket fall from her shoulders, revealing her absolutely bare skin. Fade to exterior Frankenstein mansion courtyard, night, close-up. The camera focuses in on Mirtambrell as she sits quietly looking at the mansion in the blowing snow, her tail whipping back and forth. Her mismatched eyes grow larger and larger on the screen until we can see them glow. And as she starts to purr, the camera zooms out, revealing the entire Frankenstein estate. The tiny cat's body starts expanding, growing larger and larger until it has assumed the form of an enormous six-legged black tiger. Its purring grows louder and turns into growling as the monster cat's enormous bulk exceeds the view of the camera as we hear the unmistakably evil laugh of Nyarlathotep. Fade to black. The end.